Good morning and welcome to Germany and one of the legendary IFSC World Cups. It's Munich. Believed to have been founded in the mid-1100s, Munich has been the capital of Bavaria since 1506, and even now it retains a traditional feel and is one of Western Europe's most fun and scenic cities, combining interesting architecture, numerous green parks, and one or two decent bars as well. Munich is also a thriving economic and cultural centre of Germany, and is home to, amongst others, BMW and Bayern Munich, two of the country's best-known exports. The Olympic Park, where our event takes place, was constructed for the 1972 Olympic Games, and it remains a visionary piece of architecture 45 years on, and a fitting home for the climax of the IFSC bouldering season. And before we bring you this morning's semi-finals, here's the best of yesterday's action in the qualifiers. So here we are in the Olympic Stadium in Munich, home to the 1972 Olympic Games, and we're doing our qualifying highlights a bit differently today. We're going to do it boulder by boulder. We're going to show you every boulder being topped. We've been joined by a random German who's helped us out, and to talk us through men's Group A, we've got Yuval Schemmler, fresh from the lead season. Yuval, welcome. Let's check out these boulders. First up, men's A number 1, tricky slab, and Rustam Gelmanov in action.
Yeah, really tricky slab. I mean, the first hole you had nothing in there, and then you need to jump with your feet and hand to a hole. Then you need to jump to another good sloper, and then at the last part you have two really hard mentals, and just get to the last hold. There is also nothing in there.
Men's 2, very different.
It was very different. You had bad pinches and hard, powerful moves. The last part was hard heel hooks, just more technical than the start, and it was a really hard problem. Yeah.
And men's 3, that's Mikhail Marwem not succeeding. Jeremy Bonder got a bit closer.
Yeah, it was a really hard boulder. I think not a lot of guys topped it. It was powerful and technical. You had these big volumes. You just needed to place your feet really good on them to maybe make it more of a slab. And then the last hold was really bad, and you just needed to maybe sit on the last volume and match it. This fourth one was a bit easier than the other one. You had pretty straightforward start with crimps, then a hard jump to an edge with your feet up on the wall. And then the last move was really hard. A lot of guys struggled with it. You had to maybe smear high on the wall and just get into this under edge pinches thing. You see, the match is really hard. This last one was again really powerful. You had a really bad sloper to the left hand, and then you need to explode to these two maybe better holds. And the last move was pretty hard because you had a smear, not really a good feet hold, and just match the tough last hold.
To discuss the men's Group B boulders, just run into Alex Kazanov. Got a pretty nice place to sit here above the Munich Stadium. Let's have a look at the boulders. Boulder 1, powerful one.
Yeah, it's a nice boulder to start with. For sure, as an athlete, sometimes as an athlete you get a slab for the first boulder, which can get you really nervous. But this boulder, you just go and explode, some powerful big holds, really fun one. And Vezi's making a really light work in the video. Really nice to see.
So this is Dave Barron's on number 2, another powerful one.
Number 2 is the pure power. Every comp we have this really powerful one, just purely physical. And this is one. This is probably the hardest boulder of the group in terms of grades, and also quite a number of people topped it. It's the hardest one.
Number 3, really technical looking slab and a tricky start.
It's a technical slab for sure, but it's also diverse. I mean, you see here you go and then you jump up and then you need to mental. I think it's a good slab. It's a combination of a lot of skills you need to have when you're climbing something technical. And the top part is also really hard, and you have to be really slow and really precise in what you do. I think it's nice to have the slab as a third boulder, so you're already into the zone of the comp, and you have your head right, and you can kind of more be ready for it.
And there's Jan Hoyer, been working on his slab technique, he gets his reward. So number 4, Manuel Cornu.
Number four is pretty the funnest one for me. I really enjoy climbing it, and I think most people enjoy climbing it. It's also nice. It's like half technical, half powerful. Then number five is this pure crimpy one, face technical. Yeah, it's also a good set of boulders in my opinion.
Alex, thank you very much for your help. Unfortunately, not enough for a semi-final for you, but we are seeing you in Arco giving lead a go.
Oh yeah, it will be fun. First time in years, so no expectations, but for sure, have fun.
So evening has arrived here in Munich. I'm joined by Alex Puccio and Fanny Schubert. Fanny, you're first. We're going to talk through the A boulders, starting with number 1, the slab.
This one starts with a little skate on the right, and the last move was the hardest one, with the crimping. The higher part of the hold was possible to crimp it and to match. This was the hardest move. The number 2 was more powerful, like very big move on good holds, but it was overhanging and a lot of heel hook. There was different beta to do it, but there was a very difficult last move to go on the big volumes. The third one was more about open hand holds and balance to move well on volumes and go 100% without hesitation. The matching on the last hole was difficult.
Up next, the world champion Petra Klingler, number 4.
The number 4 was a dyno on some crimps, but the tricky part was the first position to start the dyno. And then the last part was more easy, more basic on crimps and a good check on the end. And the last one, it was difficult to move and find the balance to move every hand. And there was a lot of different beta with toe hook, heel hook, and I think there was 1,000 beta to do this one. The last one was about to mantle on the left hand and crimp the last hold, and then go pretty fast on the last hold, which was really good.
Alex, you're up next. B boulders.
Yep, that's me. So on boulder 1, the big red slopey holds, I don't think I did the beta quite correctly, but I had a slip up in the middle where it was tricky with your right foot. You had to make sure it didn't slip off going to the last crimp, which is a little worse than I thought it was going to be. And then you jump to the last hold, which is a glory jug. So if you fall out of that thing, you deserve it. Boulder 2 was more powerful. I think Boulder A had almost the exact same boulder, or Group A. It was slopey with a bunch of big bumps. I think there's a few different ways where you can make the moves a little bit smaller, but I usually don't like to do that method. So go big or go home. And then the last move, actually, I almost slipped out of it. You have to get really far back into the sloper to get the juggy part of it. So if you don't, it's kind of tricky. Boulder 3 took me a while to get the run across. That is a really tricky move. And then it got impossible, I thought. I don't understand how people matched the finish hold. There was nothing there. The sloper, the bonus hold, was really bad. Barely stuck that. The next hold is even worse. And then I thought maybe the finish would be even better, but the finish was horrendous. So, yeah. And then Boulder 4, a very awkward jump with no hands. Something you never get outside. So particularly I'm not very good at that. But yeah, I think once you get to the crimps, it's going to be like more of a basic boulder, which I was hoping that I'd get to. I never got to it. But the jump was really awkward because you had to jump with no hands. The last boulder, the fifth one, actually was pretty cool. There's like a little run, I don't know if you call it a run across, but a little hop across, and you have to stab your foot out when you get the bonus, which is lots of fun. And then I remember when I was going up it that I had like 20 seconds left when I got bonus. I thought the last part would be easy, and it actually was a little bit hard on these tiny little like I think you call it like thumber clings or something. And then you go to the finish hold, which was really good.
So, Alex, thank you for your help. We don't see you in as many World Cups as we'd like. Can't wait to see you tomorrow.
I'm excited, and hopefully it's colder, and hopefully everyone does well with no injuries.
15 degrees colder, I believe, so conditions should be good, and best of luck.
Thank you.
Don't forget, for full results from today's qualifiers, you can go to the IFSC website, and we'll see you tomorrow for the semis. And I'm delighted to say that joining me in the commentary box today, I've got two very special guests, Campbell Harrison and Mike Langley. And Campbell, you climbed on those boulders that we've just seen yesterday. It was a hard set.
Yeah, I found them pretty tricky personally. I found it hard. There were sort of boulders that were a bit hard to get into a rhythm with. Like, a lot of them had very tricky starting positions that forced you to really take a lot of attempts just to get onto the boulder. They're quite physical. A lot of the holds were very poor. And so for me, it took a bit of time to like get into the rhythm and actually be able to like move and fight on the boulders properly. And I know a lot of the other climbers felt the same way. Like, you look at the results list, and for a long way through, you've got just bonuses or maybe one top. Some of the climbers just managed to figure out something that suited them. But for sure, it was the hardest, or one of the hardest World Cup rounds I've been in for the qualification, and I know the other group was even tougher than mine. So, but they were enjoyable nevertheless, and it's always fun to come here and climb on World Cup boulders, of course.
And the wall, of course, will look very familiar to regular viewers of the Munich World Cup. And Mike, you've had a look at today's boulders. What have they come up with on today's wall?
Well, I think the area is thick with anticipation already here in Munich. It was super busy here all throughout yesterday, big crowd, and the same again already this morning. And the route setters, as always, have got a tough job. Not only have they got to think about the World Cup semi-final, which is hard enough as it is, they've got to think about who's going to take the overall. We've got the overall podium to come, and we've got the European overall as well. So we've got a lot of work to do. The boulders look absolutely fantastic. I think we are in for a really, really good show.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say there's a lot of really good-looking boulders, a lot of tricks, and it's going to be really hard to make those splits. I think when they set, it was in super high temperatures. Obviously, we had a crazy storm last night, and the temperature has dropped by at least 15-20 degrees since when they set the boulders. And in that scenario, it's really difficult for the route setters to predict what's going to happen. So, yeah, we will see.
Yeah, as Mike said, we had the most extraordinary weather yesterday. It's quite hard to believe now because it's quite chilly here in Munich, around 20 degrees, relatively chilly by August in Europe standards. But yesterday it was so hot, and this Perspex roof that we have here in the Olympic Stadium, it really makes it a bit like a sauna, and the whole day was extraordinarily hot. And then about 9 o'clock at night, we had a storm that was actually described by the weather forecasters as a hurricane. I've never experienced a hurricane before, but it was pretty dramatic. Hurricane might have been slightly over the top, but it was very strong winds, very heavy rain, extraordinary change. I'm pleased to say today it's not raining, but as I said, it's quite cold, still relatively humid.
So here we go, this is the first look at the first competitors semi-final here in Munich, and like I said, air is thick with anticipation. Really, really looking forward to this round. There's just a real buzz in here already, and it's going to be German out first, Yannick Floe, followed in the women's by season competitor Julia Kruder.
Yeah, good to see Julia back. We haven't seen her in as many World Cups as we'd have liked this year. She made the final in the Adidas Rock Stars last year. She's a previous finalist. She can do it. Just about snuck into the semi-finals. Remember, of course, the athletes climb in reverse order. If you qualify in 20th place, you climb first out of 20 in the semi-final, and it's a pretty handy start so far for Julia.
Yeah, this is a great start here from Julia Kruder. She's obviously, like you say, Charlie, such a seasoned competitor and showing her form already. This first women's slab on these blocks holds, really technical. It's much harder than the qualifying slab that they had, and more conventional slab climbing, not too risky. It's kind of more steady way, but just dropping at the top there.
Yeah, that first women's slab looks really, really tricky. The men's boulder, I kind of thought it looked like perhaps the easier of the four boulders. the starting position looks a little bit tricky, but then after that, the holds aren't so bad. Really interesting, I think, to see Yannick Fleur coming out in the semi-finals. Super young athlete. I think he's born in 1999, so he'd be one of the younger climbers in the whole competition, and he really crushed in the qualifiers and has made it through the semi-final, so he could be a good one to watch.
Yeah, and what an awesome effort. 292 competitors in total here in Munich. Completely unprecedented levels of entries, and to get through just down to the final 20 is an achievement just in itself.
Extraordinary effort from everyone at the IFSC yesterday. Actually, the qualifiers began at 7 a.m. and concluded, I believe, just after midnight. The hurricane stopped play for a couple of hours. It should have finished around 10 o'clock. It would have been a huge day. It became an absolutely enormous day thanks to the weather.
Here we go. This is where Julia Kruder dropped. As I say, this is where she fell last time. And once again, another attempt burnt as we look in the background. The young German athlete really struggling with the double jump off of the sloper. Pretty cool move. Once again, Campbell, the route setters have kind of really brought the fiery move straight into the competition. Yeah,
absolutely. I think they're really, with the European Championship being decided in the semi-final, I think it's really, really important that in this round they're getting the split. So we'll probably be seeing lots and lots of attempts being made on all the boulders. There's lots of jumps and dynos and tricky slab moves like this, just to make sure that they don't have to go through to any kind of tie-break boulders or anything like that to decide the European champion.
So it's just under 1 minute left on the clock. Oh, sticks it this time. That's a great move. Route setter says now they're going to go for the high foot, and he thinks it's much harder for the taller climbers, but no such problem. So strong across the back here. This is a great effort. Can he roll over to finish? So awkward. Oh, it's right round the corner. Oh, heartbreaker. Great start to the competition.
Amazing to hear this crowd and the MC here in Munich. It's only 10 o'clock in the morning. Huge crowd here. I believe we've got a crowd of around 4,000. Around 4,000 tickets have been sold. Getting straight into it straight away. That was a huge cheer. You probably picked it up on our microphones. We're only about 5 meters off from the end of the wall here in Munich. And there's Julia Kruder, 6th here last year in Munich. Made the final. She can do it, as I said earlier. Sister of Jerne. We've got 5 seconds left.
Just a time correction there. It's actually 1 minute left. So there's a slight issue with the time clock at the moment. I'm sure we'll get that licked into.
My apologies.
I couldn't repeat the double jump again, but like I say, it's got enough time. Just 4 minutes. These athletes have 4 boulders to compete against today to get through to the final. Just 6 climbers go through to the final.
Yeah, this first left hand on the boulder that Yannick's on now is quite poor, but as long as you can get enough power to carry through to the right-hand side, the next one's really good, and you can get that opposition between the 2 holds, and then hopefully he can pull the end together. I think it's just a matter of making sure he gets nice and high, but time's up, unfortunately, so we'll be seeing our next boulder is coming out in just a moment.
Yes, and next out it will be another German climber, Matthias Konrad, and in the women's, Katerina Kiprianova of Russia will be out. Climbers number 2. As you can see, the Olympic Stadium, or our part of it here in Munich, beginning to fill up very quickly. And as I say, I'm told it is a sellout. Conditions still humid, but certainly better than they were yesterday. Temperature must be at least 10 or 15 degrees lower.
So Matthias Konrad, one of 3 Germans in this stage of the competition. 47th last year in Munich, so he's done really well to improve on that. He's been training very, very hard since the last Munich competition. Campbell, you must have seen him on the circuit.
Yeah, absolutely. I climbed next to him in the qualification, actually. As a super passionate climber, you can definitely, you know what he's feeling, whether that be anger or frustration or satisfaction with his climbing. But yeah, like with all the guys, you know, it's a super, super tough field. So he placed, what was it, 40-something in the last Munich World Cup, and then now he's in the semis, and at another World Cup maybe he'd be in the finals, or maybe he'd be in 70th. It really is like such a tough, deep field here. So it's really cool. We get to see lots of different climbers pulling through. 6 the dynos straight away, which is super impressive, and I think maybe we'll see a top if he can get high enough into this Gaston. But again, a bit tougher for the taller athletes, like we were saying before, I think.
Look very casual in the process as well, but this suddenly looks a bit tricky. He's just trying to figure out what to do with the legs, how to squirm around to get the left hand on top. You can see him fighting, also smiling, enjoying the support of the local crowd. got the left hand, needs both.
That was absolutely desperate to watch. You can see his teeth and his face just gurning all the way from where we are, hundreds of meters away from that spot. It's an absolutely brilliant moment. Real fighter.
They've got a lot of climbing to watch today, this Munich crowd. If they can keep up this enthusiasm, I'll be very impressed. Something tells me they will, though. The drink stand doing a roaring trade. It's only 10 a.m. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, though.
This slab looked really, really tricky when I took a look at it close to the wall. Basically, none of the holds had anything on them. I'm even impressed that both of our women are getting to the bonus so easily. I thought it looked like a really, really tough boulder for a slab, and this last move just looks heinous. So I'm really excited to see some of the climbers pull this all together.
Oh, that's exactly where we saw the first climber, Julia Kruder, coming off as well. So there's a lot to be done on those top two moves. And just to let you guys know at home, the clock is actually back in the game. It's correct as far as we're aware. So the time, no issue on the screen. You can see there just crowd building in the background, a great atmosphere.
And as ever at IFSC World Cups, you can get in touch with us, hashtag IFSCWC on Twitter if you've got any questions for celebrity climber Campbell Harrison or celebrity route setter and media darling Mike Langley. Get in touch, hashtag IFSCWC. We've got a packed schedule for you today. We also have the European Championships coming up after this. It is a rather complicated system, rather complicated solution to the problem that the athletes raised when it was suggested that the European Championships could just be decided by the World Cup ranking. There are a few issues with that, and the Athletes Commission did a great job in coming up with a solution. It's not perfect, but it does the job. It is slightly complicated, though. We will explain to you as the broadcast goes on, but there will be more action after the 20 climbers that you see in the normal World Cup semi-final.
Yeah, it's going to be roughly around a 10-minute break, and then we'll get on with the remaining European athletes. Quota of 20 Europeans go through in that European Championships, and we will explain more about that later on, because it is slightly complex. But when you get your head into it, it's not actually too bad.
Once I'd read the press release 3 times, it made sense. So let's have a look at Katarina. Are we about to see the top on women's 1? Inching her way up. She's been this far before. This time the right hand lands.
Hold. It's one final move. The last one's good. It's probably one of the better holds on the boulder, but the feet are really, really terrible, so she's going to have to be really careful. Matthias sticking the dyno again, and hopefully he can pull it together.
There we go then, first top of the competition. It's Katarina Kipranova. Great effort from the young Russian, and just as we see in the background, the German athlete, not quite meant to be for him on that boulder. Realistically, he's going to be out of time. 4 minutes only for these climbers. Tackle 4 boulders.
We saw a really, really interesting technique there from Matthias, the way he walked, he waited the time all the way down to the end. He almost flashed the boulder, so basically he wasn't going to learn anything more from further attempts, so he waited, rested as much as he could, and unfortunately it didn't work, but the hope is that you recover as much as you can, and then you can pull those final moves together with maximal effort.
Yeah, it's always a fine line to draw, how many attempts to take, how much energy to use. Remember, of course, these climbers, some of them will have spent a long time in isolation yesterday, done a lot of warming up, a lot of preparation, then 5 hard boulders. They're out again this morning. It's a relatively early start. So you've got to measure that energy. You've got to use it wisely in terms of number of attempts, how much you give to each boulder, and when you maybe just write one off and say, this one's not for me. Yeah, sorry, Mike. I think we're about to say the same thing. Very excited to see this climber there. Number 109. Alexander Megos. We're used to seeing him in yellow T-shirts climbing outside. I saw him at breakfast this morning and asked why they hadn't provided a yellow uniform for him. Apparently he has to wear the German uniform. But we're looking forward to seeing Alexander Megos, known primarily as an outdoor climber, but has been successful in bouldering competitions before La Sportiva Legends only up in Stockholm. It's not his first time in a competition, but he's certainly not a World Cup veteran. I think that would be fair to say, but there should be no issues with horsepower.
Yeah, he took away the Climbing Works International competition, beating Jongwon Chon back in March 2017 this year, so he's obviously no slouch in the competitions, but at the moment it's all eyes on Evgenia Kazbekova, a lead climber predominantly, and turning her hand onto the bouldering and doing quite well at it indeed.
Yeah, real all-round athlete. We're in the Olympic Stadium, and think of the Olympics in 2020. We'll be there in 3 years' time. You could do a lot worse than keeping your eye on Evgenia Kazbekova, and she tops boulder 1.
perfect start, and the key to these slabs is really just pure slab climbing. So just keep breathing, stay calm, don't let the excitement and energy of the crowd just put you off. As we can see, Julia Krudis is our first look at women's number 2, a real fight on these undercut volumes, and Campbell, a really complex boulder for these women, lots of volumes, and I've been told after that section's a particularly heinous mantle.
Absolutely. At first, I thought that it maybe looked a little bit easier. After that section, you get a nice jug to maybe have a shakeout on for the bonus. And then the end is like it's a mantle with really, really poor feet up into this sort of undercling that they have to press up into, and then a really unstable pop to the final hold. So I'm really excited to see some of the girls pull through to that move. Right now we've got Yannick on the second black boulder, which looks really, really cool. Like a combination of different styles. I thought really gymnastic start to a fairly poor slot. It's quite slopey. And then some very, very physical moves through some small crimps. See him stick the dyno. A bit tricky to read, see how that bonus works into the whole sequence. But yeah, again, it'll be really interesting to see some of the guys figure that one out.
That's an awesome display of power here. And a brilliant footless cut through, gets a toe hook, heads right. This is exactly what the crowd want to see. Got to drop into left hand now. It gets quite complicated with the foot options out to the right. There is some toe hooks available there, and what a powerful move that is.
Yeah, that was crazy. There is outright, there's actually a little jib on one of the volumes that I think a heel hook is intended for. But we'll see exactly what the guys decide to do with that. Like I said, it was really tricky to read. Alex not quite sticking this first dyno. I think maybe the second half of the boulder will suit him if he can pull it together.
And as we carry on watching, we've got our chief route setter here in Munich, Mathieu Dutré. Mathieu, you've seen the first 15 minutes, 3 or 4 climbers. What are your first impressions of the competition so far? Happy with your work?
Yeah, actually pretty happy with the work. Well, we'll see in an hour how it goes. But no, looks great. I mean, we have an incredible crowd here this morning in Munich. So the show's on. The first boulders goes pretty like we wanted to. The slab for the girls, it was what we expected. It's a real slab, pretty slow, so not so much show. But it's pretty hard to climb in there. Not so much risky. And then for the men's boulder, it's great. I mean, we could see the first one. It's exactly what we want. There's a first double jump, which is okay, and then there's a tricky hand. The end of the boulder is very tricky, so it works exactly like we want. We could see it now. Okay, we just thought that's great.
That's a top from Alexander Megos. German crowd enjoyed that one. That final move that he just did, it looks desperate.
Yeah, it's a really tricky last move, and then finally. Short climber make it. That's great. That's a way to go we want. And then we could see in the second boulder, there is this first big jump. Well, first dyno, which is not so hard, but it's you just need to understand how to arrive on this hold. But after, as we can see, the end of the boulder, it's not so hard. It's just you really have to find a good way to go in there. And actually, he didn't find exactly the section of the move, but for sure it's going to happen. And then the second boulder of the girls, actually it's a very hard boulder. It's very physical, and then it's not so hard to read and to understand, but really this is a hard boulder. So we'll see how the strongest go in this boulder.
Okay, thank you for talking to us. Will you come back a bit later on when we've seen boulders 3 and 4? That would be great to hear from you again.
I will be there.
Thanks very much.
So out next, starting the competition, it's Manuel Cornu representing Team France. 4 tops and 11 attempts for him to get through to today's semi-finals. Finals twice already in 2017, and particularly famous for his finals show last year when he had a slight incident, shall we say. We won't say too much more about that. I'm sure he's sick of everybody hearing about it. But Manuel Cornu then on excellent form this year, and an excellent form on the first move of men's number 1. A great start from him. This is where we saw Alexander Megos really tucking in and having a kind of no real issues here. Let's see what Manu Cornu can do then. Really tough cross through, but with ease. A great start from the Frenchman. Will he push for another finals place here this weekend?
Yeah, that looked stupid easy for Manu there. I wasn't surprised he stuck the dyno. He's really, really good at that like coordination style. But yeah, no, that last move didn't look problematic at all for him. So that's always interesting as the next few athletes come out, it gets better and better. And
just off the screen there, we saw a top from another French athlete. It's Amélie Agrapart, so a perfect start from her.
Just to bring you up to date with a few results, actually, Alexander Megos He got that first boulder on his 5th attempt, and it was a flash from Manuel Cornu. The top that we saw from Evgenia Kazbekova and also Melis Agripar, they were both flashes. Katerina Kiprianova, 2nd attempt.
So as the route setter was saying there, kind of as they expected at the moment, first couple of boulders getting done quite nicely, and you know, Campbell, we've looked down the boulders. I'm pretty sure it gets much, much harder later on in the round.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the last boulders look really, really tough. Again, some really, really tricky start positions, some really crazy climbing. Ekaterina's making nice work of this yellow boulder so far. She's only the 2nd climber that we've seen, but nevertheless, first one to get the bonus.
Brilliant effort there on what is obviously a really difficult mantle, and really struggling to get all 3 points on board that yellow hold there. This is a great burn, really close to the top here. Just got to match that next hold with the thumbs on the underside of that volume and push for what is potentially a pretty good finish hold.
Absolutely, the last hold's a victory jug, but the moves to get there look super, super hard, super strenuous. So if she manages to push through these moves and doesn't stick the last hold, it could be really, really tough to have enough energy to come back again and do it. But hopefully she can pull it together on this attempt and make it work.
Really starting to route read through this section now, really feeling it out. A lot of volumes and just stretches for the finish hold with ease. Oh, that was really impressive. Just looked kind of really confused there for a minute, really took her time, then just looked up and went, oh no, so fine, it's right there.
Yeah, and remember to match. I know you said we won't mention about Manuel Cornu, but in case you did not see our coverage last time, he got one hand onto one of the top holes, turned to celebrate to the crowd and dropped it before he could match, and of course he wasn't awarded the top because he hadn't had both hands on the top. Well, he learned his lesson, but a painful way to learn it, and I think a lot of other people learned that lesson as well that day.
Oh yeah, absolutely. As a competitor, it's like a really stark reminder to always match the hold before you celebrate.
So it's a good effort there. It's a first really good look at this men's number 2. A brilliant dyno and super physical. It's actually pretty far. Great zoom in there. You can see exactly what he's going for. It looks like a jug from a distance, but when you can see inside it like that, it's really a slopey pocket at best.
Absolutely. We get a lot of those in the lead comps as well, and you never really know what you're going for. Sometimes they're a jug, and then this one, not so much. I think it's quite slopey and quite hard to stick, and you have to be super coordinated to get both hands into that pocket and pinch it exactly right. And then also the outside, it's dual textured, so the outside is like glass, so you can't really get much, but there is a little thumb catch on the bottom that makes it a little bit nicer to stick.
Sticks it this time though with just 45 seconds left. Is it going to be enough? He's been to this point before, but he's got a real fight on his hands here.
Yeah, that is a huge dyno. When we were on the mats earlier, I'm not the tallest of climbers, but it looks an awful long way. And then you have to switch into a very different style. You've got to lock off tiny holes. The German crowd loving this. He's a couple of moves away, 25 seconds to go. Shouldn't be an issue with time. There is an issue when that right foot cut loose, swings out to the left and couldn't control it. Let's just have another look at the jump. You can see from how his arms move, how far he's got to go. His arms go right down to next to his hips and come all, he's got time to bring them all the way through above his head. Massive.
What's good about that move as well, it's really only big enough for one hand, so he managed to squeeze 2 in there, but managed to slap the left hand on top of the right hand. That kind of clamped him in. Pretty painful, I imagine, on the fingers, but pain is no issue at this stage in the competition. They'll do whatever it takes, and the latter part of that problem, it's really about finding the feet and finding the sequence, which I think is really difficult to read from the ground. Our first look at the left-hand side of the wall. As we look at it, then men move on to the slab. A really genuine, pure slab climbing this for the German athlete to tackle, and Julia Kriniv from Slovenia attacking a super powerful set of volumes on the far left-hand side of the wall. The wall here in Munich is split into half, as first boulders are on the right, and we move across the stage, and the final boulders are on the left-hand side of the stage. So huge wall here, but split in half. So we see the right first, and then onto the left.
Yeah, Camille Fay attempting women's 1. Chatted with her compatriot, as we saw earlier, Fanny Gibert, yesterday. Well represented in this semi-final France. They didn't come to some of the World Cups. The European ones are always well represented. Well, so it is here in Munich.
I think the French are really well prepared for this competition. Obviously, it doubles up as the European Championships. And the French athlete here, looking super solid. Easy in the end. She managed to stay super composed. She couldn't see any signs of wobbling or nervousness in the feet and the legs, and it was a really, really good top there. Just say there's an excellent article on UK climbing with the French team manager. If you guys at home should check that out, because it's a really good insight into the coaching game and how the French prepare for the internationals, and some really good insight as to kind of what the French do to prepare and what events they miss. As we look at Julia Kruder really fighting her way through these powerful volumes. Feet cutting again, but so strong. Great core tension there. This is fantastic.
Really, really strong climbing from Julia. Some of these slopers are actually really, really bad. These last two aren't so bad though, so I think she should be able to pull it together for a top.
Nicely done, a campus to finish. She is on form. Absolutely brilliant. The crowd love to see a campus finish.
Yeah, crowd were loving that. As I said, they're full of energy. If they can keep this going till 10 o'clock tonight, I'm going to be very, very impressed. But yet, no partisanship. They're cheering equally loud for everyone. With the benefit of hindsight, we could have maybe been a bit further away from the crowd, because when they get going, pretty much deafens you. Superb atmosphere though here in Munich by this evening. Every inch of floor space will be taken up.
Evgenia Kazbekova, nicely done there. Really powerful. She missed out the first hold. So complex this boulder, a lot of options.
Yeah, flashed the first boulder, Evgenia. We barely got a chance to see it. And Campbell, just a quick one. We've had a question on Twitter from Sapien Con Z. We'll come back in just a second. Could be about to see another top men's one. We are. Well, when the climbers get that body position correct, it seems like the move's not too hard. It seems like if you're a tiny bit out with the body position, it looks utterly desperate.
Absolutely. I think it's really about getting high into that Gaston and pressing your hip over the foothold. And if you can push yourself into that position, you should just be able to lock off and reach over to the final hold, which I think is quite a good edge. So as long as you have it, you shouldn't fall off.
Yeah, quick question from Sapien Con Z, another Twitter handle that's hard to pronounce. Where are the John Smiths and Adam Smiths of this world? He says, Charlie, what is the most difficult part of training for you? I think I might pass that one on to Campbell, actually.
The most difficult part of training? That's a really, really interesting question, because, I mean, training is always hard in its nature. I think at a World Cup level, the hardest part of training is injury management and injury prevention. I think a lot of top World Cup climbing, or remaining at the height of top World Cup climbing, comes down to your ability to manage and recover from and prevent injuries as you train, because there isn't really time for, every time you get a niggle or a little something that doesn't feel quite right, you can't just stop, because everybody else keeps going. So learning to alter your training according to how your body feels, and learning when to push through and when to not push through, and then how to best rehab something whilst also becoming stronger in every other area, is probably one of the hardest parts of training, I'd say.
So we're just under 20 seconds left. Really short of time here for Evgenia Kazbekova, and we just saw off the shot Alex Magos struggling on the dyno. So the first man to on-site 9A outdoors on rock, potentially not trained that many big dynos. You could see him earlier on the week on his social media feed practicing the modern style, practicing the jumps. But Alex Magos, easy top on number one, but nothing for him on number two. And it's Chloe Collier starts her campaign.
And Mikael Marwem, always enjoy watching him. Remember, he was one of the stars of the Tokyo World Cup back in May. Got a question, another question on Twitter. We will cut back to the action if we see someone heading towards the top. But a question from Full Name, I believe that is his Twitter handle, at Full Name. Do athletes watch the streams after comps, maybe to prepare techniques or just for fun?
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, I'm sure there's exceptions to that, but for the most part, if you're on a semi-final and you have that opportunity to watch back all of your boulders and know what you did, but also to see what the other climbers did, because you've always got coaches who are going to film you and you can check back and see how you've been climbing. But yeah, definitely we go back to see all the other climbers and how we can learn and improve.
So it's Manuel Corner at the moment from Team France then, pushing towards the top of this boulder. Not seeing much action up here. You can see how hard it is, see how physical it is. Great view. That's the penultimate hold. Can he sort his feet? Can he release the hill and not lose the tension? You can just see how hard the right heel is digging in there. He needs to get this hold well. Oh, and exactly what I just said. As soon as the hill went, Manuel Cornu was out there. It was a really good burn early on in his time, and what an angle this is. You can see him smashing up to that slope, how bad it is. That was really impressive. So starting to give us a bit of an insight as to what's required on men's number 2 as we concentrate back on men's and women's number 1.
You can see just behind the entrance on the right-hand side of your screen there, the Olympic Stadion itself. If you haven't been to our Munich World Cup, we're up behind the seats in the stadium. There's a huge, maybe 100-meter wide walkway that goes around the stadium, and that's where our World Cup takes place. But it's extraordinary because right behind the wall, where the athletes are waiting to get on for their turn on the wall, you're basically looking straight down onto the stadium itself. You can see the 400-meter track. There's some rugby posts up there. Apparently there's a rugby event coming up. It's one of the most extraordinary venues to come to. You can be concentrating on the crowd and on the wall, and suddenly you turn over your shoulder, and there's this huge stadium, home to the 1972 Olympics, 1974 World Cup final, home to Bayern Munich. Extraordinary place, amazing venue. And being Germany, the hospitality is not too bad either. Let's have another look at Katerina Kiprianova on the lunge left, and we'll go back to Chloe Collier, women's 1.
So I've seen a few tops already on this boulder, so it looks like this is going to be one of the early dividers in the field. If you want to progress through to the finals, it's pretty much going to be guaranteed you're going to have to climb this boulder. Chloe Collier just going up there, you could see she had that look on her face. That is not a hold.
She flashed the bonus on that women's 1, Chloe Collier. No top just yet.
So this is a good look then, women's number 3. Sort of a triple jump left, free hand movements all at the same time. We've got to land the left foot. One of those real modern style moves. You can see it really winding up the left foot. Oh, it's a really cool move. Land the left foot, 1, 2, 3. Control the pace, control the rhythm, and make sure you've got 3 points to land at the same time.
That said, though, Julia Kruder managed to do it pretty much static through each move, I think. So maybe some of the taller athletes will find an alternative solution.
Yeah, I wonder if the route setters had that dialed. They certainly didn't suggest that as an option when we were speaking to them earlier, so maybe a slight surprise. Like I say, maybe it's a height thing, and you can see in the background there, Team France giving it everything. One of them's really tangled up on this, and number 2, it's Manuel Cornu who's back up there, and we saw him really high. Can he find a top? Seems to be really locked in on that right toe hook, but he's got to bump the left, and that's a side pull. It looks really desperate to hold on to a hold of that angle in that position. Here we go then, moves around as Chloe Collier finds a top.
We will confirm the number of attempts for you in just a second. Meanwhile, Manuel Cornu is up against the sloper, sticks it with the right hand. He's been this far before. It's progression from here that proved beyond him. He's just somehow trying to keep the hips close to the wall so that sloper is still useful. And that is a valiant effort from Manuel Cornu.
I thought he was in for a really good shout there, because once he can stem that left foot out, he can start getting the weight off of the right heel. But it looked like just as he went to release the right heel, his arms were tired, shoulders slumped, and it wasn't quite enough. But he did hit the last hold, but the good part is way at the top of the wall.
I think an attempt like that goes to show why a lot of the boulderers have been doing so well in the lead climbing coming up lately. He was on that wall for quite a long time, holding on, squeezing that whole time, really testing his physical endurance. And I think that goes to show why so many of these top athletes can go across disciplines, because they need to have all that explosive power as well as that with drawn out resistance climbing as well.
So joining us on the mats for Team GB, it's the young athlete Hannah Slaney, and there was it's particularly impressive for her to get through to the semi-finals, because she was still climbing way past 11 p.m. last night, and this is kind of when we were into this hurricane situation, and there was a really epic moment where she was still on the wall and all the crowd were basically running for the hills because of the rain and the wind, and she just stuck it out, and she was no way that she was going to give up her attempt, and she's made it through to the World Cup semi-final, which is incredible.
I think this is her first ever World Cup as well, from memory. She's quite young. She's still in the female junior category, so that's really, really cool to see as well.
So look then at the men's section of yellow volumes. Another super physical boulder. Really hard to find the methods with so many holds. You really see him just trying to find the method, trying to feel it out.
just quickly as well, bottom right of your screen, there she is, Hannah Slaney. That's a pretty handy start. As you say, amazing moment last night. I think a lot of the crowd and athletes and everyone had disappeared and the qualification were winding down, and then we had this epic moment where you had thunder, lightning, sideways rain, hurricane winds, and Hannah Slaney just battling to claim that top.
Nice top also from the Russian athlete Vadim Timonov. Another early top in the competition, and this is looking really good now. This is Andrzej Perhach gone up with the left hand with ease, and he's not got the right heel hook, so he's really front on. This is a great position. Can he hit it? Oh, fantastic effort. Andrzej's the first climber to find a top. Men's number 2, that's put him in a brilliant position. I'm pretty sure he topped men's number 1 as well. Andrzej off to a flyer.
I think one of the challenges for him now will be getting his game face back on. You get that massive surge of adrenaline when the crowd roars. Big smile on his face as he walked off the stage. Now needs to calm down. He doesn't have long until he's back out for Boulder 3. Keep an eye top of your screen for the results so far. It's Russia in the lead and Slovenia in the men's.
Yeah, Andrzej was actually the European Youth Champion back in 2015, so he's no stranger to the top of the podium. He's looking like he could be back in that sort of position today, but it's really early to tell. Obviously 20 athletes to get through, to get down to 6. As we look at Alexander Megos then, he is a bit of a specialist on the slabs and he's really proving it. Super barn door move there. Oh, that was great. You could see as he rotated his left hand, just had to switch it from a side pull into a palm down to try and stop the barn door, and that was a really good burn from Megos and a really good effort also from Yulia Karuda. Finds the toe hook as well.
Yeah, no, that was really, really impressive. She just kind of slipped in, made it perfectly work. Almost like it was by accident, but that was really, really cool, but didn't quite make it work, unfortunately. Still plenty of time left, though.
So it's Megos back onto the slab with just over 1 minute 30 to come. So he's seeming to have no issue so far moving out to the left. And the route set was really describing this. It was funny because we had a bit of a English-French translation of what this next move described as, and obviously in the UK we say it's a barn door move. He just called it a door, so whatever door you want, but here he goes. This is the barn door. Oh, holds a resistance, holds a tension down the left side of his body. Alex Megos could be in here for a second top in the competition. And just one more move. This is a great effort from Megos. He's really looked so comfortable on the slabs once again. Alexander Megos, first man to Unsight 9A outdoors. 2 tops here in the semi-finals.
Cheer from the crowd tells you everything you need to know. They'd like to see him this evening in the final. He's an extraordinarily dedicated climber, actually, Alex. When I chatted to him yesterday, I said something about, oh, well, if you don't make the final, maybe you can head into Munich and have a drink. And he said, no, if I don't make the final, I'll be training.
Yeah, absolutely, especially with Arco coming up next week. A lot of these guys, a lot of the guys who didn't make the semi-finals aren't actually here watching the semi-finals. Many climbers have headed off and they've gone for a training session at one of the many gyms here in Munich. It depends, it's different for everybody, you know, skin's a condition and how your body's feeling, but super important to make sure that more than anything you're ready for the next climb. Yannick making one final attempt on this super physical last boulder, but I don't think he's got any time. This is one of those boulders I think we'll see some of the top guys come out and really, really crush. It's just super physical, super slopey. However, a lot of those holds were used yesterday, so they're quite slippery and quite dirty from the qualification round. I think you can really see the difference between the holds that were used during the qualification round and the fresh holds. Obviously, when you see 170 men all pulling onto the same slope, you're bound to see some wear and tear on the holds after a while.
So I just put you on the spot here early, Campbell. We've seen 2 tops already in both categories, men's and women's. How many tops do you think it's going to be to get through to the final here today?
That's a really, really good question. I think we'll be seeing athletes who top all of the boulders. Whether that puts you through to the finals, I'm not sure. That said, though, I don't know. I don't know if I'm willing to make a call just yet. But I do think we'll see climbers topping all of them.
Well, you heard it here first as we have a look at our first Japanese athlete. Again, making fine work of men's number 1. Men's number 1 really seems to be kind of a nice problem to come out to start the day with. Get those nerves out of the way. It's become Alwem then on men's number 2, and he's got a hard act to follow after Andrzej from Slovenia really dominated that boulder, and he's looking pretty much up in despair at the moment. Not quite sure what to do with that section. Sierra Blair Coyle joins us in the competition then. Team USA athlete. Good season for her in 2017, looking to continue that.
Yeah, she only arrived from Arizona a couple of days ago. Pretty brutal travel schedule. She's used to the heat, but she was saying the other day that it's the humidity that was killing her. Apparently it's very dry in Arizona. Can't say I've ever been, but seemed to cope pretty well with the heat yesterday and is coping pretty well with cooler temperatures today as well. Good start for Sierra. Heads back in, earns herself a few minutes of extra rest, which can be crucial in this semi-final.
Katrina Kipranova then, women's number 4, just off to our left, if we look at it. Yeah, kind of a boulder of 2 parts, technical first section, and nice little toe catch move after a slopey right hand, and then into some, well, it looks like a slab as we look at it, but it's actually a vertical wall, and it climbs really powerfully this section. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of what style of climber does well on that boulder. And yeah, it's so easy. I called it a slab earlier, and the route set corrected me, so actually that's not a slab.
Absolutely. We can see the frame actually from where we're standing, and it's actually probably about 5 degrees overhanging. So yeah, I would have called it a slab when I climbed on it yesterday. I would have called it the slab, but no, it's not quite actually. Here we go, we're seeing some static beta from the French athlete, so managing to palm down onto that start hold, and you can kind of press it out. If you're tall enough, you can just reach that sloper, and then if you hold the tension like Yulia could, carry through to the next 2 holds and finish it off.
And our chief route setter here in Munich, Mathieu, is back with me. Mathieu, we've now had a look at boulders 3 and 4. Have the climbers been figuring it out as you hoped they would?
Yeah, we've seen the girls in this like a skate with tac. Some girls find a different way to go on that boulder. Well, it's the game, so, but it looks to be okay. Number 4 of the girls, they managed to make the tricky start, but as I said, the end of the boulder is very physical, even if it's not so overhanging. But I think it will make the game. And then for the men, we could see Alex Megos make a great job in the slab. It's now Manu Cordy in there. We'll see. The last part is still hard. Alex make it right. We'll see how it goes with Manu. And the men's sports boulder, it's a classical, very physical boulder. I think it do the job. So the climbers understand the way to go, but it's all about power and how fresh you can be. And we could see now that in number 3, the end of the slab is still hard. After we'll see some the Slovenian guy who make a great job in the 2 first boulders. No, actually it goes pretty much the way it should go. We think at the beginning that we need maybe 3 boulders to be qualified in the final of the World Cup. It should be this way. So, it goes pretty well.
Okay, good to hear it. Thanks for talking to us. Enjoy the rest of the semi.
Another close-up look there. Mauem just lands it with one hand and goes straight into the one-armer cross-through. That's a really impressive show of power from him. Still, unfortunately, standing on the mats with 15 seconds remaining. It's not going to be enough for Mauem, unless he does something particularly impressive in the next 10 seconds. He's just out there for the fight at the moment.
It can be so tempting in those last few seconds to pull back on. You're feeling quite passionate, quite revved as you step out to the boulder, and then you just want to get that top. But he just used a lot of energy for not much gain, so that's going to be unfortunate going forward.
And as we start our next rotation, we've got a very special guest, Julia Kruder, fresh down from the wall. It looked like you enjoyed that.
Oh yeah, I did. I always enjoy here in Munich. It felt so hard today.
Why was that? You were tired from yesterday?
Yeah, I believe so. Yesterday I fought really hard, and I climbed. It's so hard for me to climb in the heat, so it almost killed me.
And what were the boulders like this morning? They look quite varied. Some technical, some physical, a lot of variation.
Yeah, I totally agree. I really like them all. I wish I'd done more on each boulder, but I guess I did my best today.
And we haven't seen you so much this year, but great to just hearing the crowd cheer. Great to see you back in Munich. Are you happy now with your performance, or were you hoping for a final, or was the goal just to enjoy yourself?
Yeah, I think my main goal was to enjoy, because I don't think I enjoyed previous World Cup as much as I do now. So I think my goal here is achieved, but yeah, I wish I'd climbed a bit better. But yeah, I think it's hopeless to think for the finals today.
Well, fun to have you back. Thank you for talking to us.
Just during that interview then, two legends of the game, Alex Megos found a top which was set the crowd on fire, and it's Alex Puccio, another legend, potentially not the world's most rounded slab climber, but does a really good job there. And let's have another look. Alex Megos, like I say, an absolute legend in the climbing game and really enjoying himself here. Another top for Megos. That's 3 so far for him. So Vadim Timonov then wearing 23 on the back of his shirt. Let's see if he can equal Andrzej Perhacz from Slovenia's effort on this. A really good burn from him, and the Russians are known for their power on the small hold. So let's have a look what Vadim can do. Oh, it's really key on that move, Campbell, to keep the tension. You've got to find some good solutions with the feet.
Absolutely, those holds look really, really poor. I think the crimp is quite small and not that in-cut. And then the sloper, of course, is terrible. We could see it from the view above the wall. So really, really important that you're keeping the tension with your feet and compressing with those heel hooks and toe hooks to keep your body into the wall and stay under the holds.
So across the top of the screen then you can see the current standings. Katrina Kiprinova, 2 tops in 3 attempts, and Alex Megos takes a new provisional lead, 3 tops in 11. That's quite a lot of attempts there, and the man on the wall currently in second place is Andrzej Perhacz, 2 tops in 6 attempts. So Andrzej, if he finds this, could possibly put himself into a new lead, and he's looking so good this weekend.
Absolutely. It looks like he's climbing really, really well, really strong. Struggling a little bit with this boulder though, but like we saw before, it looks pretty hard at the end, so we'll see how many tops we get on it. But yeah, definitely climbing well today in the semi-final.
Just seeing Alex Megos behind the wall. Looks pretty over the moon. He is currently in the lead with 3 tops. As I said, German crowd are superb. They give everyone a massive reception, but I think a lot of neutrals and a lot of the German crowd would love to see what Alex Megos could do in a Munich World Cup final. So he's certainly done all he can do at this stage. 3 tops, no joy whatsoever on boulder 2, but he topped the other 3.
Here we go then, Evgenia onto this top section. We've not seen much joy on the top of this so far, but looks like the Ukrainian athlete is making fine work of it. So roughly 5 degrees overhanging and not much on offer in terms of what there is to hold on to. She's really enjoying herself out there. It's great to see as we have another look. This is the young Brit Hannah Slaney, obviously qualified. She's probably not even really had that much sleep time to recover from her semi-final burn really late last night. To come out here and do well, that'd be a great performance from Hannah.
30 seconds left in this rotation. Remember, the time is flat. Always has been in the semi-final. It's no plus. There's no starting your attempt and being allowed to finish it. When the time's up, the time's up.
Hard to say, but early in the competition, that non-top there from Andrzej, I think that's going to come to hurt him later on when it comes to pushing for one of those precious 6 final places.
Absolutely. I think with whilst Alex climbed really amazingly, 3 tops in 11, we were talking about where we think that split might be in the finals, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's the level. Obviously, he's an incredible athlete, but so is everybody here in the semi-finals. So, I don't know. I think we might be needing at least 3 tops to make it through to the final.
Well, one of the things about Megos is obviously he's an incredible athlete, but he's a bit of an unknown when it comes to World Cup competition bouldering. He's done a few competitions, but realistically, we don't know that much about him, so it's really hard to gauge the difficulty boulders from Alex's performance here today.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, he's not a total stranger to World Cups, which is something a lot of people don't know about him. A few years ago, he did do quite a few lead World Cups, but as far as this like modern style of bouldering, yeah, it's very new, and it's really, really hard to predict exactly what he is capable of in comparison to the other athletes. Nevertheless, though, like in terms of his physical capabilities, he'd have to be one of the strongest climbers on the field. But that's not really what it's about in the World Cups anymore. You have to have so many different skills, and you have to be able to pull it off super quickly. So, we'll see how the other athletes pair up against him.
So this is a good look. That's actually Emmanuel Cornu there, Team France, battling his way through men's number 4. Cornu currently with just the 1 top under his belt, so kind of really needs this if he's going to push his way close to a finals position. But as Campbell Harrison, athlete from Team Australia, was saying, they're pretty sure that 3 tops is going to be roughly the cutoff. But yeah, really hard to say at this stage.
Really good effort from our Japanese competitor here, about to finish off.
Oh, yeah.
Just sticks that final hold.
Really good there. That was really cool. He looked like he was struggling, but then as soon as he hit it, just the body relaxed, and yeah, he almost preempted the celebration.
The wrist strength of some of these climbers is something I find really, really phenomenal. The way that they can stick a sloper like that, put their wrist in such a terrible position, and I don't know, I just find that something that's really impressive and maybe overlooked when you're watching, but yeah, it's super cool to see.
Yeah, it's extraordinary, all those tiny muscles and ligaments and bits and pieces that don't look very glamorous but can make all the difference. Mikhail Marwem. As I say, great to see him in Tokyo. He was one of the stars for me. His phrase in an interview that it's the game when he didn't like one of the boulders is one of my favourite quotes from this year. It's the game. Chloe Collier, meanwhile, flying across the left-hand side of your screen.
Just want to take this opportunity to just mention the clock in the right-hand side there. Just a quick correction from earlier. We talked about 4 minutes. That's the finals format. It's actually a 5 minutes on, 5 minutes off here in the semi-final. So I do apologise for that earlier. It's a 5 minutes per boulder. Sierra, who's looking a bit perplexed at the moment on women's number 2. Lots of options for her, lots of options for all of the climbers. So many volumes on this boulder.
Flash of number 1 for her.
David finishing off men's 1.
David Fernenberg. He was in the commentary box in Mumbai. He could be in the final here in Munich. So the crowd just have a second to pause. Manuel Cornu was the only man getting in the vicinity of a top. Melis Agrippa, though, on the wall, closest to us, the far left of the wall as you look at it in Munich.
So stretched there. Oh, incredible strength to hold that. That was really, really impressive. Melis Agrippa, first woman, top women's number 4. Fantastic from her.
And just when I was thinking, as you touched it, I was like, oh, well, that slope is useless, so she's not going to be able to do anything from here. And then, poof, feet cut, and yeah, finish it off, no problems at all.
Yeah, that was really, really impressive. Just she looked so stretched, just to be able to kind of levitate off the feet and yeah, pull up on that really bad slope. That was really cool.
You can see Mikhail's found a nice little crimp at the top of that undercling, which is really cool. Some of the athletes really, really have a knack for finding all those little edges in the wall and in the holds that the route setters might not have expected them to grab.
Well, there's a really good close-up of Mawem then getting really close to the top of this men's number 3, holding that barn door situation. And once we've seen the athletes get to this stage, both of them have topped it. And you see it then, it's Manuel Cornu and Alex Megos so far have topped this block, and just kind of seemed to go really high up in the arms, took the weight off his feet. There's so little of contact on the rubber of the shoes there onto the holes that he just kind of just levitated in the air.
Absolutely, and we could see all those tiny little nuances to the way that they're moving. The way he was not only pressing up into that hold, but squeezing it so hard. And to be able to do that from that position is super impressive.
Just to give you a bit of a heads up, by the way, Camille Faye of France earlier on, I don't think we saw it on the stream, you might correct me, but apparently she's actually pulled one of the volumes clean off one of the boulders. The screws didn't fail, it was the actual structure of the volume that failed, and she's pulled it clean off the wall. So one of the boulders has actually been damaged. Now I'm told there is a replica volume. The route setters can put a new one on, it's no problem, but it may mean there might be a slight change in the order. So please forgive us if the order is not exactly as listed on the start list for this semi-final.
It has actually happened in a competition before, probably a number of times, but there's a very famous incident in Arco when one of the climbers actually pulled the volume clean off, and it kind of, Nale Hukatava was from Finland, ended up with the volume in his hands on the mat. So I hope that's not happened here, but it's if you can get away with pulling the volumes off the wall, you know you're in good shape.
Never happened to me, strangely enough. So here goes Petra Klingler, world champion. Top of women's number 1. Heads back in with an extra 3 minutes 45 rest.
It's always really nice when you finish off a boulder and you know you can go back and have that sort of 8-9 minutes rest and be ready for the next one, because there's nothing worse than giving it your all for a whole 5 minutes, getting nothing, and then knowing you only have 5 minutes to recover before you have to step out and try to do the same thing. So it's always really reassuring to know that you've got that extra rest time under your belt to just sit back, relax, take your shoes off, that sort of thing.
I'm interested tactically, when you have your first attempt on a boulder, do you come out thinking, if I can just give this everything and do it first time, it earns me extra rest? So does that, what I mean is your first attempt kind of almost your biggest, as we see Alex Puccio top?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. I know a lot of climbers, myself included, really struggle with the mentality of going out and being able to flash a boulder. I think I'm in an unfortunate position where my better attempts are usually my second or third, but that's the idea. You want to be able to try and get that boulder first go, give it everything, because you never know how valuable a flash might be. And then also having that extra rest period is super important if you're coming out to a super physical boulder for the next one, that sort of thing.
Okay, so I've just got all the insider information as to what happened there on the volume that snapped off the wall. I've just seen a still photo of what happened. It was just literally the outskirts of the volume just left where the screws attached it. The entire volume failed. It's actually the giant foothold that is down to Hannah's left. It was a yellow one, now it's red, so they did really well. They were quite lucky, really. They just found an exact replica of the volume. So the red volume used to be yellow. Technical incident is over, competition carries on. Roots has done a great job. Back to the drawing board on the manufacturing of that one, I reckon.
Yeah, it's super lucky that they had one of those volumes ready to go, ready to put it on the wall. Could have definitely been interesting for the standings had they had to remove the boulder. But no, very lucky for the route setters there.
Yeah, it's actually technically possible for the organisers to cancel one boulder if there's a technical incident that they cannot do anything about, such as a hold breaking that can't be replaced. But you can potentially see there's so much force going through that, the entire body weight firing off to the left-hand side there. So, yeah, I'm sure the route setters are, you can see them in the top left of your screen, actually. Bottom left, you see the guy with the dreadlocks and one of the route setters all kind of having a look at what went wrong there, and then they hope that doesn't repeat. But if all the competitors continue to do it like that statically, there won't be so many problems, I don't imagine.
Yeah, I think the officials must be wondering what else can happen this weekend. Yesterday we had 35-degree temperatures followed by a hurricane. Today we had a volume break in the semi-final through no fault of anyone's.
And 292 competitors to deal with, plus the European Championships.
I wonder if all the judges collectively walked under a big ladder or something yesterday, or tripped over a big black cat. I don't know. Who knows? 45 seconds to go on this round.
So Yuji Fujiwaki then really straining on the face, not looking completely comfortable on the crimps. He's going up with the left hand, and realistically, as soon as he went up, he knew it wasn't going to work.
Yeah, I think that was just one of those moments of desperation where he thought, maybe I can get this next hold and maybe I can make it work. But more than anything, you don't want to fall off feeling like you didn't give your all. But yeah, that's probably it for him. So he'll probably go back into isolation and try to recover as much as possible. Same for Hannah Slaney. I think looks like she's finished for this round as well.
So it's in the background you can see Anže from Slovenia walking off. A really impressive start to the competition for him, but potentially he's faded out towards the end. Yeah, he walks off the stage just to our left, looking slightly despondent, looking completely exhausted, to be honest. It's a really good bird from him, and European champion 2015. He's obviously really taking the seniors on, doing really well already.
Out now on the first boulder we have Jonathan from Spain, and then Francis Dera from Austria, who's really exciting to see. I think doesn't compete in that many World Cups compared to a lot of the field, but I think every time she's climbed in a World Cup she's made the semi-finals, or at least every time I've watched her she's definitely made the semi-finals. And I think from memory last year she was around 10th or 11th at this event. So it'd be really cool if she can put her best climbing forward, maybe make it through to a final. I definitely think she's one of the athletes that's super capable.
And finds a nice top as well. The Austrians really seem to have their slab climbing game down. It's something they're obviously focused on, and yeah, nice easy top there for the Austrian athlete starting her campaign.
Mikhail Marwem, as you'd expect, no lack of fight from him. Getting close. Not close enough. Chloe Collier, closest to our screen, 007. Left-hand side of the wall here in Munich. That's a good view there. You can see all the way down the wall. It's a big, long wall here in Munich. A big old crowd to cheer them on.
So the Spanish athlete, it's the first look at him. He's making a good start on men's number 1. Pretty sure that's not Nathan Phillips. Spanish climbers just tuck it in. This is a good burn. This was early on in the competition. We saw some great close-ups of the face here, and it really seems to be a boulder that, yeah, you've definitely got to get this one done, and it does it with ease. Climbed in 2 minutes. Fantastic job. Fantastic start from the French athlete, Jonathan. So it's David Fernenberg then pushing through men's number 2. This is a fantastic fighting boulder. Really, really good battles to be had on this one. Really energy sapping for later on as well. We said someone like Anže from Slovenia started well and faded out quite quickly. Do wonder if boulders like this is really going to start to take the toll on the athletes after a hard day yesterday as well.
Absolutely. Like this sort of boulder I was saying before, it's a lot of resistance involved. You have to be able to squeeze really hard for a fairly long period of time in order to be able to get all those body positions, and your entire body is working as hard as you can the whole duration for which you're on the wall.
So the Japanese athlete Tatai making really good work of this, and we've seen Mikko Malmen really rush this section and fall off, but Tatai from Japan, no such issues, and he just looks so at home on the slab there, but it's just concentrating on getting the match. Nicely done. Team Japan representing once again. It's definitely not the first time we've said that this year.
No, and he's got that Tomoa Narasaki spin as he comes off the wall dialed as well, that very familiar Tomoa method of descending from a boulder. Keep an eye. Mikhail Marwem back on, working his way rightwards up these yellow volumes. You can see where he's headed, just to the left of our camera. Huge round yellow volume. Chloe Collier walks past your camera. You can see Sierra Blair Coyle in the background. And here in the commentary box we have a very special guest, Alex Megos. That looked like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was actually quite funny. Huh?
And pretty happy with your performance, 3 tops?
I'd say so. I mean, I could have climbed maybe the slab a bit faster, and I knew I'm not very good at jumps, so I kind of expected not to do the jumps maybe, but it was still great fun.
And what were your expectations and your hopes before you came here?
My expectations or hopes was that I'll get among the top 30. Because out of 120 starters, I thought, if I get top 30, that would be cool. So then I got top 20, was really happy, and everything after that was just bonus.
And have you been doing anything to prepare for this? I mean, I follow you on social media, obviously, like, 2 million other people, but it doesn't look like you've been training specifically for this.
Oh, yes, I have. The week before I came here, I did a few volume problems.
I think the fact that you said the week before gives that away. Well, whatever you did, it certainly worked, and who knows, we might well see you tonight. It looks like it could be possible.
We'll see. Whether or not, I'm happy with my performance. It was cool, it was great fun.
It was great to see you in the World Cup, and thanks for talking to us. Enjoy the rest of the semi.
Thank you very much. See ya.
It's hard not to laugh when someone that good just says they did a couple of boulders the week before to get themselves ready for a Boulder World Cup, and one of the biggest ones of the season.
I don't mind admitting, I had a little panic when I said to him, "You haven't been preparing?" And he said, "Yes, I have." And I thought, oh, it really doesn't seem that way. But then he said, "Yeah, last week I did some volume."
Oh, everybody says that though.
What a guy.
There's so much of a culture in climbing where you get. I find you get 2 different kinds of people. You get the ones that are like, I train so hard every day, I do like 6 sessions, and then you get so many climbers as well who are like, oh yeah, I just climb like a couple times a week, and it's lots of fun, and everybody's always putting in more than they say. I'm sure he's been thinking about this event for a long time.
I think Alex has spent too much time in Britain. He probably claims that he drinks 10 pints a night, never does any training, secretly fingerboarding at home and drinking mineral water. Anyway, whatever he's doing, certainly doing the trick.
Yeah, Nathan Phillips certainly did the tricks yesterday. He's starting his campaign on men's number 2. As you can see, they're lining it up, and Nathan was a really, really good performance there. Yeah, he actually flew directly from Rocklands in South Africa on his rock trip to come here, and the time difference kind of caused him a lot of issues, and he just didn't know where he was.
There is no time difference. The flight caused him a lot of problems. We were chatting to him yesterday.
The time difference on the flight is what I meant.
Time difference on the flight. Mike Langley, you passed your GCSE geography?
All I remember is when I was in Rocklands, I was really tired.
Yeah, no, flying kills you. The time zones are almost irrelevant. So, Fanny Gibert.
Great job from Fanny Gibert. No difference to the time for her. 3 minutes 40 left. Absolutely cruising. World champion Petra Klinger then. She fought this next move, this really hard mantle with something that would be up her street. Super powerful climber and really good on the ice climbing tools as well. And these sorts of moves, really familiar with her, really bunched up and super awkward.
Yeah, she was struggling a lot with injury this season, Petra Klingler. She looked like she needed a break after the last time we saw her in action, and possibly a bit longer break than she's had. But she seems to always be able to bring it when it really matters in the competition. Always seems to be able to find it, no matter what the injury or what the issue. Always does what's required. Amazing climber to watch. Extraordinarily determined, and seems to be able to climb through pain and injury better than so many of the climbers we see.
Absolutely, I've seen her climb in a knee brace, and yeah, seems to push through so much just to get through to the competition. Tops out that boulder as well, so obviously it's working for her. Again, that's what we were talking about earlier, where one of the hardest parts of training isn't necessarily just the physical effort that you're willing to put in, but it's your ability to push through when times get tough and like to maintain your resolve as well, because it'd be so easy for so many climbers in her position to give up or to just give that little bit less than 100%, but clearly she's not that kind of athlete.
You can see there Nathan Phillips really struggling to kind of find a purchase for the foot that's not on top of his hand in that hold. Real struggle to find kind of enough room for all the limbs, but does well. But it takes a lot of effort to get through that section for Nathan, and considering what he's got ahead of him, it'd be a really good effort to find a top here with only 2 minutes left. See how hard he's working. See lots of different methods being employed on this boulder, but Nathan's looking good, and he's known for his powerful skills and extremely good on the volume climbing. But that's what we saw earlier, trying to find the left foot, but not enough flexibility across the hips to keep the right heel in at the same time.
I've got to say that certainly looked very hopeful. I think Nathan is capable of a top on that boulder. He wasn't a million miles off.
With a minute and a half left though on such a physical boulder, I'm hoping for the best for him at least.
I'm hoping for the best. I think if he saves his energy, might well do that one. The crowd getting right behind Alex Puccio meanwhile. Really good to see her in the World Cup again.
Yeah, I was just about to say, one of the legends of the game, taking away the American title more times you can count on, and it's Alex Puccio is just on form once again, and lots of people really excited to see Alex competing once again in the World Cups. He's a great performer and such a nice person to be here, and finds her top on women's free. See the relief on her face. Really interesting to see what happens to Alex Puccio. Can she be back into the finals? Can she find regular form once again and entertain us in a World Cup final? It's two tops and 2 attempts for her at the moment. I'm pretty sure, I have to check the scores just to update, so that might be the 3rd top. So Puccio's put herself in a really good position here in Munich.
Yeah, as the semi-final progresses, the leaderboard beginning to take shape. Petra Klingler flashed both of the first 2 boulders. Alex Puccio becomes the first woman with 3 tops. She got that 3rd boulder on her 6th attempt. She flashed the first 2. Not far off a perfect scorecard so far from Alex Puccio. Remember, if you are new to bouldering, the key measurement, the key goal for the climbers is to get to the top with as many boulders as possible. If they're tied on the number of tops, it then comes down to attempts. But if you can get to the top of the most boulders, you'll win. So Alex Puccio doing pretty well so far. 3 from 3, and it required 8 attempts to get them. Sierra Blair Coyle back out on the mat, Alex's compatriot. Had a good start on number 1. Flash that.
Some of the real big hitters now starting to come out onto the mats. It's Jakob Schubert, Team Austria again, an absolute legend of the game. Lots of really good World Cup results under his belt over the years. And Solsar from Korea, good season from her this year. Some really good steady results, and yeah, we're really into the meat of the competition now. We started with 20 athletes, and we're way down the list now into the top 3rd.
Yeah, Jakob's also been down in South Africa, climbing at Rocklands, in a very small club of people who've won both lead and boulder World Cups. Jakob absolutely capable of making at least a final here in Munich, only an hour and a half away from his home in Innsbruck. Nice easy journey for him, no time difference.
And absolutely one of those climbers that I can definitely say has only been preparing specifically for this competition perhaps the last week or so. I think since he got back to Innsbruck maybe a week ago, I've seen him boulder a couple times, but mostly even then on rope, training for Arco in Edinburgh. So really, really impressive that he's qualified so high for the semi-finals considering his preparation for the competition.
You might have just seen Camille run out across your screen there. Her attempt, of course, was interrupted by the volume breaking, the volume that she broke through no fault of hers, I might add. And she's now back out. So as I say, the order slightly confused in this women's competition. We'll try and keep you up to date.
We'll see later on, but men's number 4 currently only topped by Alexander Magos, so it's going to be interesting to see if some of the bigger hitters, some of the more seasoned competitors can find more tops than men's number 4, and I think at this stage it's going to be doing well on that boulder that's going to get you a place into the finals later on tonight.
Just keep an eye on Jakob Schubert. This move that when you get it right looks okay. If you get it even slightly wrong, it looks utterly desperate. And Jakob, you can see how hard he's having to fight. Looks like he needs to get that right knee a bit lower if he can, but it looks like he might just have found a way. Right hand lands, so does the left. Pretty happy with that. Just to explain about Camille, by the way, when she broke the volume, there was 3 minutes 40 seconds left on her attempt. So that's why you saw her come out 3 minutes 40 seconds into this rotation. That was the amount of time she had left. So the order slightly messed up in the women's competition, but we will see all 20 climbers, perhaps not in the order we were expecting to. So Sierra Blair Coyle just struggling with that move right. You can see the left leg coming off, just rotating her away from the wall.
That look on her face, that was the real, that kind of, in a nutshell, the look of a competitor who's struggling on the boulders and just struggling to put any power down, all that training they put in and come out to some really technical, really funky boulders. And you find, I think it's really frustrating for the competitors not to be able to put that down on the track and just kind of really start to fight. And you can't even find a position to kind of really get going. And Campbell, you were saying that yesterday about the qualifiers, there's some of the positions you just can't even get into to even start climbing.
Absolutely. I think a lot of the split in the field came down to just pulling onto the start positions. I think we had two sort of somewhat dynamic starts, especially our final boulder. You had to pull onto the wall and then touch all 4 points and immediately move to the next hold, and so that can be quite frustrating and quite mentally taxing. But nevertheless, it gets a really good split between the athletes, which can really come down to separating the semi-finalists to the finalists. Camille doing quite well. Only a couple more moves. Hopefully she can pull together in the final minute.
So it's Alex Puccio and Julia Kruder, the only two female athletes to top women's number 3. And yeah, that was a good burn from Camille there, but wasn't quite meant to be. And David Fernenberg also struggling on the top section of the red slab for the men. And it's quite interesting because the earlier athletes we saw on that really seemed to be cruising that top bit once they actually got there, aside Mikko Mauem. But yeah, a couple of the early athletes, Magos is obviously really good at the slabs, really not struggling on the top. We're starting to see kind of a lot more people getting through this earlier section, struggling on the top moves.
Still have 30 seconds left. David Fernenberg had a great start to the round. Got the first boulder on his third attempt. No joy on number 2. Could do with number 3 for sure if he wants to climb in front of his home crowd this evening, and I don't think he's going to get it.
So that was a classic last-ditch attempt there, just try and jump for the finish hold from pretty basically the bottom of the boulder.
Just to give you some idea, we already have 2 climbers who've got 3 tops. When we spoke to Mathieu, our chief route setter here in Munich, he said he thinks you'll need 3 tops to make the final. That's certainly how it's looking at this stage of the semi. Remember, of course, the climbers in reverse order, so theoretically we will have the strongest climbers out last. So I would imagine you will need at least 3 tops, and attempts could be key.
So the legend from USA then finishes her campaign on the vertical wall on the left-hand side. Really technical, kind of climbs like a slab through the initial part, then gets really powerful. And we saw an excellent top from the earlier French athlete on that. So let's see if Alex Puccio can push for a finals position. She's in really good kind of situation for that at the moment with 3 tops in 8 attempts. So we could be seeing the legend from USA competing in front of us again once again here in Munich, and that would be a really, really exciting and tantalising position for the finals. Campbell, it's already lining up to be a great show for tonight. It's just, there's something about this place that just makes the atmosphere incredible, and just to see such on-form athletes perform is it's just so exciting for tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with the amount of people that come here to Munich, the ones who are making it through the finals are absolutely some of the best climbers in the world and have had to work so hard to get here. Nobody slips through, nobody gets lucky here in Munich, so it's always a really, really cool show.
Sergei Topishko then from Ukraine looking so strong. Oh, just as I say, that drops off the top, but you can see the way he was locking off through that section, just made it look like he was climbing on a warm-up boulder where other climbers struggled. That was really impressive, but maybe rushed the top section. It's Nathan Phillips then from Team GB onto the barn door section on this next move. Nathan's really good on the slabs as well. These days, Campbell, obviously, you have to be good at everything, basically.
That's it. To be in a World Cup semi-final, you're good at everything. Maybe you're not as good as the person in first, but these guys are very, very well-rounded climbers. No matter what we see on the screen, when they're training everything.
And as we watch Nathan Phillips, we've got one of his compatriots. Hannah, your first World Cup, how did you enjoy that?
Oh, it's so much fun. The boulders were really cool. Yeah.
You must have been happy, I guess, to make the semi-finals. Was that your goal when you came here? Did you have something in mind you wanted to achieve?
I didn't really have a goal, but I was not expecting to get to the semis. So I was so excited to get through to the semis.
And just quickly, we mentioned that last night there was an amazing moment where there was a hurricane raging and you basically refused to come off the wall. Just talk us through that. It was an awesome moment.
Well, I didn't really feel the rain, to be honest. Everyone else the wall to me didn't feel that wet, but I think everyone else is getting very wet.
It's Petra Klinger then finds a great top. Petra, that's her third top. 2 flashes up to that point. We'll check the number of attempts on that, but the world champion in great stead here once again.
Sorry to interrupt you there, Hannah, but congratulations, semi-final. Amazing moment last night that unfortunately wasn't live streamed, and great to see you in the semi. And hopefully we can see you next year in more semi-finals.
Thank you very much.
So it's Puccio then pushing towards the top of the final boulder here, currently sitting in second position. Petra Klinger's just gone above her. Petra sitting in 3 tops in 5 attempts out of her. So she's only been on 3 boulders. It's Puccio currently sitting in second, 3 tops in 8. Here we go, Dave Campbell. This is what we're talking about with Sergei Topishko from Ukraine, looking so solid through this section. See the athleticism through his body there and his arms. It's so strong.
Absolutely. Taking a little bit of a different sequence with his feet there, bringing his right toe up higher first before making the bump. Not sure if that was exactly the best method, but maybe he'll have enough time to pull back on and make it work.
So difficult to get 20 down to 6 here, and we're looking at the top of the leaderboard with Petra Klinger and Alex Puccio. We've got so many strong athletes still to come. People like Katja Kajic, Kia Noguchi, Shauna Coxey, Michaela Tracy, Stasha Geho, Miho Nanaka, Janja Garnbrett. We've got to get that list down to 6. It's just so hotly contested and so many on-form athletes.
Absolutely, and especially as the last athletes come through. We see such impressive climbing in that first 10, 15 athletes, and then the last few are just something else, I think. Whatever we're seeing in the standings now, I don't think we can really make any predictions yet as to what that'll mean going forward. It's really, really crazy with the modern style of bouldering, I find. There's always been a variety of styles throughout a round, but now we see a variety of styles throughout single boulders. To a bonus, a boulder might be quite technical and then quite powerful at the end, or it could be really simple to read and then one just difficult move at the end that might be a little bit more complex. And so you have to be able to switch between those styles, not just between boulders, but mid-boulder. And I think that's why we're seeing such a dice roll of semi-finalists each time that we go through.
Fantastic insight here from Campbell Harrison, athlete from Team USA, and it's Team Germany and Japan who are out on the mats to start their campaign here in Munich. The big man, 2015 European champion Jan Hoyer, and Akio Noguchi, just one of the best athletes we've ever seen in the females field in competition climbing. And Akio taking away many World Cup victories in her time, and it's great to see Akio on form once again, as always with Akio.
Absolutely. Not only good at bouldering, but also an exceptional lead climber. We saw her at the World Games in lead and boulder. And then also, usually once the bouldering season finishes up, Akio also steps out to do the lead competitions, which is really, really cool. I think I think Alexei Rubtsov said once that when you're on form, you can do any style of climbing, and Akio is definitely a climber that shows that that's definitely true. She can just step up and perform on any level.
So I'm just checking through Akio's history, and I'm pretty sure the last time that she actually won a Bouldering World Cup was Chongqing back in 2015. So Akio will be gunning for a victory here in Munich, and what a great way it would be for her to finish what has been a fantastic 2017. Made 4 finals, so Akio cruising the initial slab. We've seen that from a lot of the athletes now, but Akio, surely we're going to be seeing her in finals once again. It would be a hard man to bet against Akio as David Fernenberg pushes through this volume, and there's only seen Alexander Magos, the only climber to get this, and that really shows. Just come back to that as Jan Hoyer finds the top, basically goes for the showboat finish. Just saying, Alexander Magos currently the only climber to top men's number 4, and that shows kind of what form he is in, I think.
Absolutely, especially on a physical boulder. Usually I find with the physical boulders there's a number of climbers that can pull them off, because it really just does come down to how hard you've trained and how strong you are. But yeah, that man must be super strong, because he didn't make it look like it was particularly troublesome at all.
Yeah, well, he's climbed basically all of the hardest routes and boulders in the world outside, so he's obviously super strong. But like you said earlier, there's so many different elements to not only the round, but the individual moves within the boulders. And I talked about it earlier, but this article with the French team coach gave us a really good insight to what he predicts in the future, and he thinks that it's definitely going to be a thing. It's going to be low percentage moves combined with hard moves, all combined in the same boulder. As we have a look at Jakob Schubert, and this guy's physically an absolute beast. So Jakob Schubert then pushing towards the top. Men's number 2 goes for the full crimp on the right hand, really locks it in with the thumb across the top of the fingers, looking up. This is good work from Jakob, really seems to be in fine form here this weekend. Can Jakob Schubert find a top?
Campusing through some of the holds the other climbers could barely squeeze.
Oh, just came up short. We've seen that a number of times now, and you can see the frustration. And what's in key to this is he's only got 1 minute 45 left, and we've seen that this boulder takes so much out of you that he's really going to have no rest. Is it going to be enough for Jakob Schubert? Really think he needs this if he wants to push for a finals place.
Let's rewatch Salsa. We have another very special guest, Sierra Blair Coyle. How did you enjoy your Munich experience?
I had a good time, honestly. The boulders were really good, and they definitely stepped it up in semis, but they're fun to get on. Used to the heat, so sweaty holds aren't too big of an issue. But yeah, it's definitely crisper, and you're just way less hot when you're actually climbing, which is really nice and just feels better on your body.
Adrenaline very quickly.
I think it's good to flash the first boulder because, number one, you flash the first boulder, so that's, that can get you to the next round sometimes, and you just feel confident. You're like, I did one, I only have 3 more to get on in this round, and one and done.
Okay, interesting insight. Well, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the semi-final and your stay in Munich. When are you flying back?
I'm flying home tomorrow morning, so a quick trip.
Okay, well, enjoy Arizona and your last evening in Munich.
Awesome, thank you so much.
You could see how much that meant to Jakob Schubert just as we were in that interview. He knows that he really needed that, and that was a really good burn to recover from his first go and get up the second boulder. That was so key, and we're very excited to be joined by what is already the overall winner from the 2017 Boulder World Cups, Shauna Coxey, and Alexei Rubtsov, who in theory can win the overall today here, but it'll be very, very difficult as he's got Jongwon Chon currently in the lead in the overall standings.
Yeah, there are so many connotations for this overall standings in the men's competition. I think we'll keep it simple for now. We'll watch him climb, but Jongwon Chon currently in the driving seat, but he can be caught by Alexei Rubtsov. Shauna Coxey, meanwhile, you can see her there closest to the camera. No problem at all. Secured her second overall title. That's when you know you're a great. It's not a fluke, it's not a one-off. You win it 2 years running, especially with a devastating shoulder injury in between. She joined the greats this year, Shauna Coxey, and she can just add to her already impressive tally by winning here in Munich, and she's off to the perfect start in the semi-final.
It was actually this competition last year where she picked up that hard that bad shoulder injury, so I wonder if she's exercising any demons here this weekend. But in the qualifying rounds yesterday, she really just seemed to go through the motions and just do what the bare minimum effort to get her through to the semi-finals. And sometimes people in the crowd can think, Shauna, she just doesn't look on form, but she's actually just taking her time and just thinking, I need to get through to the semi-finals with the skin in the best condition possible and as little energy expelled as possible. It can be a treacherous line to tread, and it's a really hard one, but Shauna Coxey shows her experience in that, and it's going to be interesting to see if she was kind of a little bit off form yesterday. When I say off form, I mean she's still kind of 5th on the list, but off form for her standards, or she was just cruising.
Yeah, I know Alexei Rubtsov's very vocal about the fact that he wants to qualify for the final in 6th place. He doesn't want to win the semi-final, if you like. That's quite a hard line to draw. For someone like Shauna Coxey, just getting into the semi-finals in the top half, she can probably calculate that quite accurately. I remember talking to her in Mumbai one time, and she basically didn't give much to the last boulder. She knew she'd made it.
That's the overall champion from 2016, Samoa. Just fires off on the bottom of your screen. And Fanny Schubert, the French champion, finds a fine top. That is absolutely brilliant from Fanny. She was super happy with that. We'll just check the scores to see where that leaves her. Fanny Schubert, fantastic form here in Munich.
Yeah, she flashed the first boulder. That's a replay of Tamoa. He eats moves like that for breakfast. No problem for him.
Wait for our scores to update. It's Petra Klinger finishing her campaign on the far left of the wall. So we can have a look. There he is. She is currently leading the way. 3 tops in 5 attempts as the Japanese athlete Tazai. 3 tops in 4 also. Alex Magos still up there. Obviously just 6 go through. Magos currently sitting in 2nd, so time will tell, but I think Alex Magos could be in a good shout for a good shout here, which would definitely please the local supporters and hopefully you guys at home. He's a great athlete to watch, good comedy.
Just to confirm, that was Fanny Gibert's 3rd attempt on that boulder, so she was successful. 3rd attempt, so she flashed the first boulder, got nothing out of the second boulder. 3rd attempt on the 3rd boulder. This is Katja Cabbage, who hit some amazing form in Vail and Mumbai. That was a pretty brutal travel schedule for the athletes. They're in Colorado, and then a fortnight later they're pretty much as far away as you can be in the Northern Hemisphere. And in Mumbai, she coped with it brilliantly. Seemed to really enjoy her climbing, especially in Vail. She looked dominant in the semi-finals. Wouldn't be the world's biggest surprise if she was to make the final here.
Definitely not. She's already made 2 finals in 2017, and like Charlie said, she's had a great end to the season. 2 5th places in those finals, and Campbell, she's really kind of on board but a bit stuck here.
Yeah, she's using a really, really interesting method, pressing up to the left-hand side of that volume and trying to rock over, which from my memory, I don't know if we've seen too many of the other girls doing that.
But I think speaking with the route setters, they said realistically the taller athletes, which Katja obviously is going to really struggle in that position. They've got a lot of body to and a lot of limb to find it all on top of that
for
one
sure.
hold.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to press up over that volume. It's not very good for your feet, like good chance of a slip, and then to maintain that tension to get your feet up onto the handhold is quite tricky as well.
I think one of the cameramen, just as we luckily move away there, one of the cameramans just kind of half fallen asleep there at the background. He's obviously not finding it that exciting. It was a very, very exciting athlete to watch. Michaela Tracy joins us, and she actually made the finals back in the World Championships. I think it was 2015 when she came out and had an incredible show and really put herself in psychologically in a great position and filled her with confidence for the rest of the seasons to come leading up to this point. And she said she was actually quite nervous about coming here because she'd done so well and didn't want to come here and not have a good competition, but so far so good for Michaela.
Yeah, Michaela had an excellent day yesterday in the qualifiers. She comes through in 4th place. After Michaela, we've only got 3 climbers left: Sasha Geo, Miho Nanaka and Yanya Garmret. As I said, we've already seen Shauna Coxey, not at the top end of the semi-final as we often see her, but as we mentioned, I think she knew she'd done enough. We've already seen her out onto women's 1, and we've already seen her top it.
Jakob Schubert just struggling initially in his first minute on this men's slab. Just to have a look at Jonathan, the Spanish athlete. Looks so strong. He's actually not one of the athletes I'm super familiar with, Spanish athlete, but so strong. And Jan Hoy, I'm quite surprised here. He's actually struggling with the jump here, Campbell. You would have thought Jan so known for his dynamic climbing and super powerful approach to climbing that he wouldn't kind of have too many issues on that.
For sure, but I guess there's also the chance that that hold is quite hard to brush, being it's in that sort of slot shape, so it could be a little bit dirty. It's quite precise, so maybe he's having trouble sticking the exact position. There could be a whole different bunch of different reasons. Every move is different.
This is quite interesting. This is where the last athlete from Slovenia really struggled up the left-hand side, but no such issues for Akio Noguchi. She's kind of used the same technique, and that's quite interesting. Maybe she's following the chalk from the previous athlete, but she's made it work for her. So there's a good effort here from Akio. She had a great start on her first problem. Looks like she's having no issues on the second, and nicely done. Super controlled once again from Akio Noguchi. Just no signs of effort really on her face.
No, super good hip flexibility as well. She was able to completely open her hips and then sit really, really low under that crimp and under that catch. And made light work of the last move, which is really cool.
So just trying to analyse the results here a little bit. It's Petra Klinger in the top, Alex Puccio. They've both got 3 tops, but I think with the athletes still to come, it's going to be Alex Puccio who's going to be close to the drop zone, I think. 3 tops in 8 attempts. Obviously time will tell how we go on the later boulders, but you can't help but think that later on it's going to be Alex Puccio who could potentially be in danger. As we have a look back, that's actually a replay of Michaela Tracy. Always shows her emotion. It's so fantastic to watch.
Yeah, that was a flash from Michaela. John Hutton there made the final semi-final, here in Munich last year. Here's a man who'd like to make the final, Jan Hoyer. Look at that. I think he considered waving to the crowd before matching and then thought better of it. It certainly crossed his mind.
That was so impressive. And when he hit it with the left hand, he sort of had this like bionic shoulder move that just clicked in. He considered doing a one-arm put-up there for the crowd as well, I think, and then probably thought better of it. That was really impressive show of power there, and that is what we saw from Jakob, a real fight, and that's showing their experience on these really hard long boulders, these senior athletes.
So semi-final really beginning to take shape. We're beginning to get close to the end of our semi-final. Remember, of course, we have got the European Championships immediately following this. Just to bring you up to date, Taisi Ishimatsu currently leading the way ahead of Alexander Megos in second place. Jan Hoyer, that top of number 2. Only the 4th climber to top number 2, that puts him into 4th place. Only 2 climbers so far with 3 tops. Taisi Ishimatsu and Alexander Megos. Jan Hoyer and Jakob Schubert with 2 as well, and still on the wall. Ansley, he has 2 as well, but he's done with his rotation. All he can do is watch.
Solstar then works her way through the kind of triple jump at the bottom there, or the kind of super flexible way that we're doing with some of the athletes. Solstar getting really, really close to the top of the wall here. She's running out of time there. You might be able to hear the beeps in the background. Come on, Sol. Oh, can't help but think she would have made it, but wasn't meant to be. She really ran out of time there.
Here's Stasha, one of the most entertaining climbers to watch.
Absolutely, you can always see what she's thinking when she's on the mat. She was a super impressive shower at the World Games in Poland just a few weeks back. Really, really cool to see. Came out into the final in 6th place from the qualification and just absolutely dominated. So I'm really excited to see what she can pull off. She was in our final in Munich last year as well. And the year before, I think, as well, was her first final in a Senior World Cup. So always performs well in Munich.
Certainly does. So Fanny Schubert heading rightwards. She's only about 10 meters away from us. Almost feel like I should be quiet. There's such delicate moves in a way. Meanwhile, Shauna Coxey back to the scene of where she injured her shoulder, as Mike said last year. Stasha with a relatively straightforward top of women's 1. We'll confirm in just a second if that was a flash. Interesting chatting to Sierra Blair Coyle, and I sort of advanced the theory that maybe it's not always great when you flash the first boulder because you get a surge of adrenaline, but she shot that theory down. It does sometimes seem as if climbers do get a big burst of adrenaline and then can't calm down for the second boulder, but Sarah obviously not a fan of that theory.
I think I know a lot of climbers find, like she said, you step out for the first boulder, you do it, and then you've got that theme that you can carry on through the rest of the round, like I can do these boulders, and you've got that sense of self-belief, which can be really hard to find sometimes going out into the semi-finals. You know it's going to be tough. You know that, to make that top 6, one top might be all that you need. So I think it's really good momentum to carry through the rest of the round, knowing that could have been enough, and now you've just got to try and do more,
Just to confirm, that was a flash from Stasha.
So Shauna Coxey looking like she's having no issues at all in the semi-final round. That is going by the form book. Shauna Coxey dominating once again, dominating the boulders at least this time in this competition, and whether she'll take away another victory here, time will tell.
Yeah, it was interesting yesterday. We just keep an eye on Tomoa. Of course, last year's dominant force had an extraordinary 2016. Just needs to keep his foot in play. Remember, if he goes too far out to the right, if he puts his foot beyond that black tape on the right side of the boulder, it's illegal, but he keeps the foot in, keeps his body on the wall and gets the top. Men's 3, top by Tomoa. The replay of his compatriot Kokoro Fuji, runner-up in the overall standings in 2016. Won the first World Cup of 2017 in Meiringen. Successful top for him. The Russian warrior Alexei Rubtsov. This would be the kind of boulder he likes. He likes a straightforward fight. He's not into parkour, he's into fighting up a boulder. And he's forced his way up that one successfully. The top's coming thick and fast now.
That's really interesting, actually. The time that he found a top was pretty much identical to Jan Hoyer and Jakob Schubert. So if there's anything to take from that, I would say that they're finding that boulder equally difficult. So those three kind of big guns are all in a very similar position so far in the competition.
Go ahead, Campbell. Just over a minute left.
I was just saying Fanny's looking really, really focused on this boulder. It's really interesting being quite close to the wall, kind of being able to see her process of reading the boulder and how physically she acts out the moves before she steps onto the wall. Like really powerful, engaging all those muscles before stepping up and actually doing it, which is really, really interesting to see firsthand.
So just 40 seconds left to make it happen for Fanny Schubert. She's a little bit way down on the list at the moment, currently sitting one place out of final. So if she doesn't find some magic in the last 30 seconds, it's not going to be enough for Fanny Schubert with so many strong climbers still to come on the last few boulders. And it's Sergei Topisko from Ukraine. Oh, I'm pretty sure that's only the third top we've seen on men's number 4. And the way that he went up that Campbell was absolutely insane.
Yeah, in that last few seconds, he just totally pulled it out of the bag and didn't even look like he was all that pleased with it. But no, that boulder was super, super hard, and I think that'll rocket him up the standings.
Yeah, that was his first top, Sergei. Won't be enough to make the final. We already have 7 climbers with 2 tops or more. Remember, only 6 go through to the final, so he can't catch them. It won't be enough for a final, but at least he leaves Munich semi-final with a top. Doesn't go home empty-handed.
Yeah, it's always nice knowing, if you come out of the round and you get that last top, even if it's not enough for the next round or not enough for that placing you were hoping for, it's always a little bit reassuring.
Does it lead to frustration though, Campbell? Like you've struggled on the other boulders, but then you've come out and you've just passed potentially one of the hardest rounds of the tour. Think, maybe I should have done better on the other blocks.
Yeah, there's that too. I think you've got to take the victories as they come. And if you start the round a little bit off, and then manage to finish on a high note of topping one of the hardest boulders. You can, of course, be upset with how you climbed prior, but I don't know if that's really all that beneficial. So, it's different for everybody, I guess.
It's Miho Nanaka then, currently sitting in second place overall this season. Second place finish for her overall in 2016. Just trying to find the body position here, just trying to chalk up the hands, make sure she makes no mistakes when such a strong field and athletes seemingly finding quite a few tops. It's Miho Nanaka really making sure she makes no mistake here. She seems to have stayed calm though through the slight troubles on that boulder, and Miho Nanaka once again finds a top in a World Cup semi-final, and this is the man who's currently leading the way, Jongwon Chon, leading the overall standings for 2017. So many great competitions for him this year, and can he find a nice early top from Jongwon?
Jongwon Chon possibly heading for a top on men's one, made light work of it. If you are just tuning in, Charlie Bosco here with Mike Langley and Campbell Harrison, star of Team Australia. That's not a TV soap, that is a professional rock climbing team. Live in Munich. If you're wondering why there's a slight change to the order, we had a damage to one of the volumes in the women's competition, so the women's starting order and climbing order is slightly out of sync. We're keeping up as best we can, but that's why you're not seeing Miho Nanaka climbing at the same time as Kokoro Fuji, Jongwon Chon not climbing alongside Janja Garnbret as you might have expected. There's a slight change of order due to a broken volume earlier on in the women's semi-final.
And just earlier on, Yoshiyuki Ogata in the men found a nice top, and so did Akio Noguchi. So Team Japan, the dominant force of 2017, on form here again at the final World Cup of the season. It's Jakob Schubert to the right of your screen, fighting his way through men's number 4. Can we see another top? And let's see where Jakob would be left after this boulder. Is it going to be enough for Jakob Schubert to get through?
We've got to remember that not only are we deciding who's going through for the World Cup final from this round, but the European Championship's also going to be decided from these climbers and then the additional climbers coming through after the semi-final round.
Yeah, so we'll try and find the perfect moment to describe how the European Championships is going to pan out. So there's obviously a fairly large number of Europeans in this round, and the main gist of it is basically that there was no host for the European Championships this year. So the European Championships has been combined with the World Cup here in Munich. That does throw up a number of issues. The main one is that there was 2 qualifying groups, so conventionally you would go back to a count-back round. They cannot do that, so today's semi-final boulders will be used to determine who takes away the European Championships from 2017. So it'll be top 20 Europeans will go through, and their scores on these boulders will count. Obviously, we've not had 20 Europeans get through to the World Cup semi-final, so the remaining athletes will duke it out after this round finishes. We'll have a short break, and a number of athletes, Europeans, will go out and get a score on these boulders. It throws up a lot of interesting questions, and we'll have time to kind of go through that later. Now we want to focus on the World Cup semi-final, and we want to focus on Jakob Schubert because he has the potential to push into the top 6 with this. He really, really needs this at the moment.
Looking good. It was commentator's curse there. Yeah, just shy of the final move, which is a shame.
Yeah, Jakob Schubert is currently out of the running at the moment, down in 7th position, so it's not going to be enough for the Austrian legend. It's a real shame. Oh, he's going anyway with kind of 10 seconds left. Jakob's just kind of hoping for some miracle to finish, and it's not meant to be, and the frustration shows on his face as he walks off the screen. Unlucky for Jakob Schubert. Wasn't meant to be, and just off to our left, the chalk bag has gone flying. The toys are out the pram. Jakob Schubert is a very, very unhappy man.
Yeah, no, that's really unfortunate. I think that would have been the difference for him. But that's competition climbing, that happens sometimes.
I think his chalk bag's just been launched into the Olympic Stadium here. And he's just gone off in a sorry state. But, you know, fair play. These guys really put their kind of bodies on the line. They put themselves on the line, and it really does mean a lot to them.
Absolutely. I think it's easy to criticize athletes for being passionate or angry or aggressive about their performances, but like, you have to understand that they work so hard on the mat. They give everything, and then all of that emotional energy has to go somewhere at the end, and it sometimes almost feels like you have no control. And as long as, you know, like these athletes have been, they go off to a private space, they try to stay away from the crowds, away from other people, and just express themselves, and it allows them to work through their emotions, and they can move on to the next competition in a better position.
So we just saw Janja Garnbret, the legend of the league climbing season 2017, great in the bouldering. So she's already won 2 World Cups this year in the bouldering as well. So Janja Garnbrett on form once again. She is the final athlete out in the women's as we look at, we were just looking at Alexei Rupsov from Russia. We're just trying to keep an eye on the European scores, the World Cup scores and the overall scores all at the same time here. So got plenty of paper going around the table, just trying to keep an eye on everything. But it's Tomoe Narasaki who's putting on the show for us, and same as Jakob Schubert there, just struggling on the top section there.
I was honestly so sure looking at the boulders that we would see an athlete climb all 4 of them, but I'm actually not so sure now. Definitely we've seen a few people with 3 tops, but 4, I'm not so sure. It's definitely a tough round. It's definitely a diverse round, so you really have to be on form and be focused to top every single one of them for sure.
Just taking this opportunity to try and double check the scores. So like I said, there's a lot of math going on all at the same time here. If Jongwon Chon, basically it's Jongwon Chon currently in first in the overall in the men's, and Alexei Rupsov, who is on your screen at the moment. If Alexei can come first, second or third in this competition, and Jongwon Chon has a bit of a disaster by his standards, comes 12th or worst, Alexei has the potential to take away the overall. So it's all in Jongwon Chon's hands to lose here this weekend.
You'd have to say, from having watched him so far this season, Jongwon Chon hasn't looked like there's a slip-up coming, particularly in the recent rounds, but it's been 2 months since then. A lot can change. You can pick up a couple of niggles. Training doesn't go so well. You lose focus, perhaps. Big cheer from the crowd. We'll let you know what happened in just a second. Somebody's just bought themselves a new lens and they want to use it. That was Katja Kadic's feet.
Shauna Coxey then on women's number 3. Shauna, so far so good for her. 2 flashes in on 2 boulders. I mean, she's climbed both the first and second boulder first time. Not quite sure where she is on this one. Possibly not her first go, looking at the time. We will double check that, but Shauna Coxey, really good method there, going again with the right hand. Just showed how strong she is across the shoulders, how much stability she has, and considering the injury she had in the shoulder last year, that's really impressive. And Shauna Coxey, once again, easy work. Shauna Coxey, smile on the face, that'll push her up the leaderboard. 3 tops in 3 attempts, that'll put her into a current first position. Tomoe Narasaki then also fighting hard. This is where we lost Jakob. You can see him just off to our left. Tomoe Narasaki, the overall winner of 2016, the dominant force, putting in a great show here. Tomoe Narasaki, then Campbell, looks like he's back in the game.
Absolutely, really good climbing from Tomoe. That brings him up to 3 tops as well, so I think that's a spot in the final.
Yeah, we'll just double check the attempts, but that's going to put him close to first position as it stands. Sakura Fuji's compatriot from Japan then having a look at this really powerful and excellent boulder here on men's number 2. The route setters have seemingly done a fantastic job here and put on a really good show.
Just to confirm, that was Shauna Coxey's 4th attempt on women's 3, so it's 2 flashes and a successful top on the 4th attempt for Shauna so far. Kukoro's had enough of that.
Yeah,
top for him.
That look on his face was ace as he walked off, just like, whew, that was serious.
Yep, top in the last final seconds. Again, another impressive lead climber, so perhaps how he had that extra, endurance and extra energy to finish it off in the last few minutes after so many attempts.
So we're really getting down to the last few climbers on the last couple of boulders here. We will have the remaining Europeans duking it out on these semi-final boulders to crown our European champion. That will come after the conclusion of the World Cup semi-final here, and we'll talk more about that as it comes. We'll have a short break, so we'll have a little bit of time just to go through the ins and outs of that. We're really focusing on the competition as it stands, and it's Jongwon Chon. Yeah, we'll have a look at the scores, but basically if he goes through this round better than 12th, we're pretty sure that guarantees him the overall for the season, so Jongwon Chon could be receiving an early medal here this weekend. Filling up the trophy cabinet once more. This is a great fight. Look how strong this guy is.
Yeah, of course, 2015 overall champion. Last year, you might be able to hear the crowd. It's because Jan Hoyer is close. He's got a top. There he is.
Jan Hoyer is
loving that, the crowd.
Yeah, he's putting on a really good show this morning. We spoke to him in the hotel. He said he's really on. He's on this weekend. He wants it. It's Jungwon Chon at the moment then. Just looking so casual where others have struggled there. This is the real party piece for Jungwon Chon here. Just, oh my days. He's just
taking a rest, taking a shake out.
John last move. John, fantastic once again. That is why he is most likely going to be our overall winner this year. We'll wait until the scores update. I'm pretty sure that has guaranteed him. He was in 13th position before he even pulled on to that. John Won Chon, we'll double check the maths and we'll hope for confirmation from one of the technical team, but that should be the overall winner of 2017 for John Won Chon. He probably doesn't know it. He's just focusing on today's competition. And let's have another look back then, Charlie. Jan Hoyer smashing it once again.
As you said, Mike, me and you were having a coffee and a croissant at a horribly early hour this morning. We did see Jan Hoyer look relaxed, look psyched, look like a man who could really perform here in Munich, and that's proving to be the case.
And currently the highest ranked European, I think, so vying for the title at this stage.
Yes, as we've mentioned it a couple of times already about the European Championships, it will come down to the highest ranked European, but it's not quite as simple as calling it at the end of this semi-final, because we do have more Europeans to come after the World Cup semi-final, and they could potentially take that European title.
Well, I think this is a great opportunity to say this is actually really interesting, because the European Championships is decided at the end of this round on these boulders. Europeans in the women's currently Petra Klinger with 3 tops in 5 attempts, Shauna Coxey 1 boulder to go, 3 tops in 6 attempts. So as it stands, Petra Klinger, the world champion, will take away the European Championships, assuming that the later athletes coming out don't find more tops than that, which is, I wouldn't like to say unlikely, but they didn't make the World Cup semi-final, so it's still all to play for. But yeah, does Shauna Campbell, do you think she focuses on the European, tries to get as many tops as she can here? You know, she obviously wants to get through to the final. She's not going to be holding anything back anyway, but do you think that's in the back of her mind at all?
I'll be honest, I couldn't tell you. I don't know Shauna Coxey that well personally. So as far as her motivations in this competition, I mean, I'm sure her goal is towards both titles, you know, her World Cup title and her European Championship title that she'd be vying for. As far as her exact mentality in regards to those, yeah, I couldn't say.
I'm inclined to say she won't be giving it a lot of thought. Her mindset generally seems to be, whenever you talk to her, okay, I just think about the next attempt, the next boulder, the next round, the next World Cup. She doesn't appear to give a lot of thought to the long goal, which is absolutely the right way to do it, because if you start thinking about what's going to happen in the next round, you might not perform in this round. Same goes for each individual boulder. So I suspect she's not giving it a lot of thought.
Well, I think it's probably a wise idea, because if she thought about it, she has the potential today to drive home with the European champion, the overall champion, and the World Cup winner from today's event. So, you know, if she thought about it, she's going to be checking in extra luggage if she's not careful.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've definitely heard that she's very singularly focused on a goal. She picks a goal and then that's what she focuses on for the season. So in a lot of instances, that's maybe generally like the overall title for the World Cups, and whether the European Championship fits into that goal set, I'm not sure, yeah.
I think it's a good mindset to adopt. I know when you're training or something, if you actually think about what you've got to do over the next few hours, it's horrible. But if you just think about the next move, the next pull-up or whatever, it breaks it down, it makes it manageable. And I think that's Shauna's approach to competition climbing.
And like, for example, she skipped out the British Championships in bouldering so that she could be better prepared to take the overall title for the World Cup. So definitely a very focused athlete. She definitely knows what she wants and how she's going to go about getting it.
Speaking of potential European champions, this lady on the screen right now, Janja Garnbret. How many times do we say that name every year?
Absolutely.
She just continues to amaze us.
So just as Janja's on the bottom, I want to just go through this overall thing again in the men's, because it's not quite as simple as we initially expected. We've double-checked the maths. So if John Wong Chon comes first or second, he guarantees his overall win. Only Alexei has the potential to beat him, and only if Alexei comes first, second or third. If Alexei comes first, Jong Won Chon must come second to win. It's pretty exciting. We'll go into some more of those details slightly later on, because there's a lot of potential outcomes, and yeah, it's really, really close in the men's, and it comes down to kind of those positions, first, second or third between those two. no other people can challenge Jongwon Chon at this stage. It's only Alexei who can knock him off that top spot.
Meanwhile, that was Kokoro Fuji. And this is Jessica Pilz. So Jessica Pilz, one of the climbers who didn't make the World Cup semi-final, but was one of the top 20 ranked European climbers. So that's come around quickly. So Jessie Pilz is not part of this World Cup semi-final. She is attempted to claim the European Championships, but she'll climb on the same boulders and in the same order of boulders as the World Cup semi-finalists.
Absolutely, and it's worth specifically noting that she is not eligible for a spot in the final, I think, as well. So yeah, no matter how well she does, even if she climbed well enough, flashes all the boulders, she can't take a spot in the World Cup final, only a spot on the European Championship rankings.
So Janja, we've seen her cruising pretty much everything in recent weeks and months in the lead season, just being made to work for this women's number 2 so far. Looking calm as composed as ever. Sometimes there's an air of inevitability when you're watching Janja climb.
Yeah, absolutely. She's just so strong, and so good at so many different styles of climbing as well. And sometimes when I watch her boulder, I start to think how hard the routes are, the moves on the lead routes, because sometimes she doesn't look like she has to try any harder for these than she does when she's doing 40, 50 moves in a row.
Remember, she's won World Cups in both disciplines, not in her career, but this season. She's made a pretty good start here in Munich. That will be her second top in 2 boulders. Flash the first one. We'll just confirm the number of attempts as the scores update. Meanwhile, Shauna Coxey coming towards the end of her round. 3 successful tops so far. Could be heading for a 4th here. Ooh. She would be the first woman to complete a clean sweep of 4 tops on these semi-final boulders.
So Shauna Coxey currently down in 4th position. Still all to play for here. A couple of spots still available into the finals. Kia Noguchi, Stasha Geho, Petra Klinger, Shauna Coxey, Alex Pucho's in there, and Katerina Kiprinova from Russia also in there. But with Janja Garnbret still to push through the rankings, can't help but think that the Russian athlete is in danger zone there. Another great top there from the Japanese athlete Kokoro. Fine work once again as Campbell. The sun graces our presence for the first time in a very long time, but yesterday there was way too much sun, so I'm not even sure if people are going to be happy about seeing the sun come out here.
I'm certainly happy about seeing the sun come out. I'm pretty cold. I don't know about you guys, but it's nice to get some sun on our back and feel a little bit warmer, which is funny because yesterday I would have prayed for the sun to go away while I was climbing, but
we're just watching Shauna Cox. She's currently in 4th place, 3 tops so far. She really needs that one. We shall see. That's only 3 tops from Shauna Coxey.
Yeah, with Miho and Janja still in the runnings to come into those top positions potentially. It's going to be really interesting to see if that's enough. I think, if all goes to plan for Shauna, that will put her in 6th position, assuming that Miho and Janja go by the form book and climb well. But yeah, we'll see. Alex Puccio and the Russian athlete Ekaterina Kiprinova are currently in the 5th and 6th, so place is still up for grabs. In the men's, it's Chon who is currently on your screen. He's currently sitting in 6th with 2 tops in 3 attempts, but he's only been on 2 of the boulders. Tazai Ishimatsu from Team Japan leading the way at the moment, 3 tops in 4 attempts. Another Japanese behind him, Tomoe Nagasaki. Jan Hoyer just off to our left. Fine form, he's happy with that, big smiles all round. He's in 3rd position. It's Alex Magos in 4th. Kokoro Fuji, another Japanese behind him in 5th. So as it stands, Chon was the last athlete out, so he is already into the finals with 2 quick tops, 2 tops in 3 attempts, but he's only on his 3rd boulder, so he will be pushing through anyway.
Maybe we will get that 4 tops after all if he manages to climb well through the next couple of boulders.
Just you can see off to our left, a great top from a Japanese athlete once again then. It's definitely Team Japan at the moment on the wall, and this is another one of the athletes having a look at the overall for the European. That's Leah Crane, so they are now competing directly for the European Championships. It has nothing to do with today's World Cup. Competition just flows through here because the timeline is so tight. So these athletes are trying to get scores on these boulders to determine who's going to take away the European title at the end of this round.
Yeah, we've got another one of our European Championship climbers, Benjamin Blazer, climbing on the first boulder for the men. So again, can't take a spot in the World Cup final, but he will be competing for a place in the European Championship rankings, hoping for a podium or potentially even a win.
So Chon's doing really well now onto the top of this, and Campbell Harrison was hoping to find his 4 tops for the round. Chon could definitely be that guy, and he's been that guy all throughout 2017. Always puts on a show. John Chon so dominant, has the opportunity to take away the victory of the overall this year, and obviously the World Cup title. John Chon once again on fine form.
And another man in fine form who will be appearing in his first final of 2017, first boulder final. Congratulations. Thanks a lot. I said we saw you this morning at breakfast, you seem relaxed, you seem motivated. It seemed like you were in the right place to perform well.
Yeah, the past couple weeks I think I've been in the right state of mind. I've been lead climbing, which was a lot of fun. I haven't really bouldered in the past 2 months in India, but whenever I trained on the wall or at training camp, I felt really in shape. So I came here knowing that I'm like really strong right now, and had didn't feel as much pressure as during the World Cup season, where I really wanted to do well, and then it didn't work out. I missed finals like real close a couple times, and today I just climbed and had fun. Yeah.
And I bet you can't wait for the final this evening.
It was a big goal of mine to be in both like bouldering and lead finals in the same season, and it would have been like a wasted opportunity, like not making bouldering finals a year. I finally make a lead final. So.
And what's the mindset for this evening? Just give it 100% and see what happens?
Well, I know this year I want to focus on lead climbing. I only go bouldering here at Arco Rockmaster and Adidas Rockstar, so I just want to enjoy every single move I do on the bouldering wall, and the audience has been like really appreciative. It was, like, I might have been even louder than at the World Championships, or maybe it's just too long ago and I don't remember. But yeah, just want to have fun again.
I think you're going to have a lot of support. There's going to be a lot of noise, so enjoy every second of it.
Thanks, and I really enjoy like making finals with Alex Megos. Like he's one of the strongest climbers I know, and seeing him having success on this big stage hopefully makes him compete a bit more, so we get to hang out a little bit more. Like he's so impressive on the warm-up wall, and I'm really happy for him that the transition to the comp wall like was successful.
It's going to be some final. You guys in the final. There's huge crowds to cheer you along. We can't wait. Enjoy it.
Thanks a lot.
That was Jan Hoyer. Safe to say, I'm no body language expert, but relatively happy with that performance.
Yeah, I reckon that. So we've got 2 competitions going on here at once. The final athletes in the World Cup semi-final are on the left-hand side of the wall. Yanya Gambret. Also we have Kokoro Fuji, and just on the left-hand side of the screen it's Stasha Geho on number 4. So it's getting really, really close here in the finals. This place is still available, I think. Jan, Charlie, correct me if I'm wrong when you're looking at the scores here, but Jan seemed to assume that Megos was definitely through to the finals. Do we have Kokoro Fuji still to come?
Yeah, Jan was very interested in his score and realised that he was safe through to the final, but as you rightly say, Mike, I'm not sure he quite spotted correctly Alex Megos' score. Alex Megos currently sitting in 6th on our results, and I believe they are the updated results. Kokoro Fuji still on the wall.
Top out for Yanya.
Could it take his place? So Jan saying how much he was enjoying climbing with Alex Megos and looking forward to the final. He might not be there, Alex Megos. Jan certainly will. Kokoro still climbing. There he is, right-hand side of the wall. That's Stasha Geho on the left.
It's 3 tops and 11 for Megos at the moment. Kokoro needs something to happen here for him to get through. It's really close. It's 3 tops in 13, so he needs a top, and he's got one hand on it. Kokura Fuji's going to knock out Alex Magos, and just off to our right, Alex Magos gives a nod of approval. An awesome effort from him, but it wasn't meant to be. And when you get knocked out by someone like Kokura Fuji, you can't be too upset.
No, that's a shame though, poor the crowd and Jan Hoyer, and we would have enjoyed seeing Alex, but Kokura, an extraordinary climber, and we can't wait to see him in action this evening. So Stasha Geho, let's confirm where that puts her. Yes, just confirm Alexander Megos, he moves down into 7th place. Jongwon Chon still to climb. The final of the men's competition here already confirmed, because Jongwon Chon's already in 4th place. There's no one he can knock out. The final this evening in the men's World Cup final will be Kokura Fuji, Taisi Isimatsu, Tomoa Narasaki, Jongwon Chon, Jan Hoyer and Yoshiyuki Ogata. Unfortunately, Alex Megos just misses out. We would love to have seen him climb, and as I say, so would Jan Hoyer, but he doesn't make it. Such is the nature of this men's competition. It is so tight.
Yeah, really tight. And just to remind you guys at home, the climbers we're seeing out now, this is just the European people who didn't make the World Cup semi-final getting their scores on these same boulders to determine the European champion for this year. So it's 20 Europeans in total go through. We've actually got 5 Europeans who it's 15. That would be 15 Europeans who made the World Cup semi-final. So they get their scores. That means there was 5 spots still to be played for in this extra round. That's 5 in the women's and 8 in the men's. So these climbers who are out at the moment, there has no impact at all, as Campbell said earlier, on the World Cup finals positions. Doesn't make any difference to the World Cup semi-final list, but they are fighting out for positions in the European Championships, and they're doing that due to the fact that there was no host this year for the 2017 European Championships. It was a bit of a shame, and it's absolutely guaranteed to never happen again. That's been a statement from the IFSC, but the athletes came up with this solution of using today's semi-final boulders, and it seems like a pretty reasonable solution.
Absolutely. Like, whilst it's not ideal that there's a combined European Championship and World Cup, I think for a lot of people it's far more ideal or far more preferable than not having a European Championship at all. So, you know, as long as we've got it, we're going to have a ranking, we're going to have a fair ranking, and that's the most important thing.
Apologies, by the way, if the World Cup scores, we've got to be careful what we're talking about here, but the World Cup scores are not updating. I'm being told that there is an issue with the electronic score update on women's 4, so that's why I've got a slight delay bringing you the women's score. We do have a result for the men's, though, as I said earlier. I'll just read out the 6 names again. This is a mouth-watering final that will take place in front of a sold-out Olympiastadion venue here in Munich. It will be Kokura Fuji, Taisi Ishimatsu, Tomoa Narasaki, Jongwon Chon, Jan Hoyer, Yoshiyuki Ogata. So 4 Japanese climbers through, and they will be joined by 1 Korean in Jongwon Chon and 1 German. Wait for the roar when Jan Hoyer comes out this evening. Remember, of course, we have got split finals as well. The men's final and the women's final will be separate, so you will see every attempt from every climber on every boulder.
Yeah, and to add some spice into the mix as well, the overall will be up for grabs between Jongwon Chon and Alexei. So we've done all the maths on that, so when it comes to that final later on, we'll be able to describe exactly what's required from each of those athletes. As you can see, one of the legends of the game, Yone Kruder, didn't make it through to the World Cup semi-final, but is still out there fighting for his potential European title, and he's really enjoying himself out there no matter what.
Yeah, safe to say wherever Yone Kruder is, he's probably having a good time. Such is the case in Munich. He's a man who enjoys the social side of climbing. I would imagine he'll get on just fine in Munich, old Yone Kruder.
If anything, Munich is definitely one of those World Cups that's very, very, very social. It's the last World Cup of the season for the boulderers, so everyone gets to come along, and once they're done climbing, have a really good time and enjoy everybody's company sort of outside of that competitive environment, which is lots of fun. And I think that's why so many people come here to the Munich competition. We had almost 300 competitors. 292 athletes. And it's absolutely crazy, but I think it just goes to show how incredible the atmosphere is here in Germany for the Munich World Cup.
So this is Jongwon Chon then, on his last boulder, the final male athlete out. Will we see 4 tops? And Jongwon Chon Looks like he could be heading there. Really so dominant this year. Got potential to take the overall away. John Won-chon leads the way, then it's one hand on the finish show, two hands. John Won-chon will go into the finals in first position. A clean sweep for him with 4 boulders.
He'll go through in first place. Him and Kokoro Fuji. I love that John Won-chon getting the crowd going as if they needed any encouragement, but he will go through in first place. Him and Kokoro Fuji, the only 2 athletes who topped all the 4 boulders in the World Cup semi-final. Remember, of course, we've still got the European Championships going on. But him and Kokoro Fuji, the only 2 athletes with 4 tops, but John Won-chon, we're just waiting for his score to update, but I'm almost certain he's used significantly less attempts than Kokoro Fuji. We will confirm Kokoro required 14 attempts for his 4 tops. John Won's going to be much lower than that, 7, maybe 8. We'll let you know as it comes through. Apologies as well in the European competition. These scores also not coming through right now. We will bring you up to date with who is going to be the European champion, who's going to join them on the podium as and when that information comes through. We do apologise. So just to confirm, we are now getting some results through in the women's competition. Stasha Geho, clean sweep, 4 tops for her. Kiyo Noguchi, 4 tops for her as well. They're coming through bit by bit, these results are teasing us. As I say, apparently there's an issue with the judges' tablet on women's 4.
But it is Miho Nanako, who's currently out on women's number 4, who's still fighting for a place. We do hope that is as up to date as we can bring it for you guys. Miho currently out of the runnings, currently down in 10th position with 2 tops in 8. She's on the 4th boulder, so we do believe that is actually up to date. So Miho's really fighting for a position here, and this is going to affect her overall standings for this year as well. Here is Miho on the last boulder.
On your screen right now, there's Leah Crane, Great Britain. Didn't make the World Cup semi-final, but gets a chance to climb on the boulders anyway as part of the European Championships.
So we're just looking at the scores and counting Miho's attempts off to our left, and do believe that Miho cannot get through to the top 6, even if she topped this based on the number of attempts that she's already burnt. It's really, really tight here in the women's, and it's 3 tops that's kind of going to get you in, and Miho, she probably doesn't know, but yeah, it's not going to be enough for her. Currently leading the way in the European Championships then, it's Stasha Geho with 4 tops in 6 attempts, and Jan Hoyer for the men, 2015 European champion, 3 tops in 7. We've got a lot of scores going here at once, and there's some slight issues, technical issues with the scoring system at the same time, so we are keeping an eye on those European scores, and like we said, it's how you do on these boulders that determines your European position, whether you're in the European round, which we're seeing not with Miho, but the athletes further down the mats, whether you competed in the World Cup semi-final or you come out into the extra group. It's that score on these boulders that determines where you place.
I think we've actually got a tied first place at the moment in the women's with Kiyo and Stasha.
I was just talking about the European round.
Oh, yeah, the European round.
Yeah, so Stasha's 4 tops in 6. That's going to be quite hard to beat, I think. So we could be seeing Stasha Geho.
And yeah, for sure, absolutely.
Just I have to say this very quickly. I just chatted to Eddie, IFSC photographer, who's somehow getting the scores updated, I think because he's down the front with the judges. If Janja flashes this boulder, she is the European champion. If she doesn't flash it, Stasha is the European champion. As I say, we're having problems with our scores here.
Well, here we go then.
That's what I'm told. This is for the European Championship.
The opportunity for the one and only Janja Garnbret to take away the European Championships. do hope those stats are right, but they've come from a reliable source down the front of the wall, so it's all to play for. This is actually quite hard to watch now then. It's all between Janja and Stasha. Stasha's already finished, she can't affect this result, but Janja does really nicely there. I do think this is her first go. Could we see the European champion 2017? Janja Garnbret, the winner once again. Another trophy in the bank.
I have to say, you can't help it. You just shake your head. She does it every time. Comes out, we see it in lead climbing, in bouldering. Comes out under huge pressure. Just always seems to deliver. There's, as I said earlier, there's almost an air of inevitability sometimes when Janja comes out. She just seems completely impervious to pressure. Extraordinary athlete.
Just to dominate the lead season and then come out and do so well in the bouldering as well. It just, like you say, Charlie, just such a staggeringly good athlete. It's so impressive. So we do believe that's going to be, just having a look at the scores, Janja Garnbret 4 tops in 6, but she will win the European Championships based on countback, I suppose. Is that even possible?
No, so there's no count back because the qualifications were split. So
yeah, we're going to have to quiz.
No, so we talked about this at the technical meeting. So if there's a tie for the European Championship, it'll go to IFSC format tiebreaker, which will be a single boulder scored like a lead route. That's in the instance that there is in fact a tie. Yep, so at the moment, we do have Janja and Stasha scored for a tie. So there may be more action to go. But we'll keep you updated on exactly what's going on in regards to that.
Sorry, just gone off microphone there. It's all action here. There's a huge gathering of athletes, and technically everybody's trying to figure out what's going on here with the European. It's really exciting. And if what Campbell said is the case with Stasha and Janja exactly tied on attempts and bonuses, they will have to go through to a tiebreaker. It's really unprecedented scenes, but that is what it's going to be to determine who's going to make the European Championships. And it's going to be really interesting because we have Stasha with us, and she can tell us what's going down.
Yes, Stasha, I do apologise, we're having all sorts of problems with our scores updating. Tell us what is happening with the scores in the European Championships.
Well, the thing that's happening now is that me and Janja seem to be tied now, since she flashed the last one, so we have both 46, yeah, exactly. So we're gonna have another super final route boulder. That's gonna decide the European champion, but we're all in finals, so that goes just for the golden medal of the championship.
And interestingly enough, when I saw you and said, are you okay to do a live interview, the first thing you said is, we're going to have such a good final with Janja.
No, I mean, that's not what I said, but yeah, it's going to be such a nice final. I said we're going to have a super final with Janja.
That's what you meant by super final.
Yes, that's what I meant. The actual super final, which as I heard on the technical meeting, it's going to be a route, I guess. So
that's what we've been told, yeah.
Yep, so let's get started.
Okay, well, enough of the confusion. How was it climbing on the boulders here in Munich? Amazing atmosphere.
It was awesome, really. I enjoyed every single moment of the semifinals and the qualies yesterday. I love the boulders, and I just can't wait for the finals tonight. This is my third final in Munich, so I'm really psyched for this.
And what do you do now while you're waiting for the super final, and then you got the final this evening? What's your plan? Are you just hanging around trying to stay warm and keep your mind in the right place?
Exactly. Roll, stretch, try to get my muscles ready for next challenges, rest and so on.
Okay, well, we, and I think the public at home, love watching you, particularly in a big final, particularly in front of a big crowd. Give it everything. We can't wait.
Yeah, I can't wait either.
So just as we were hearing from Stasha then, I've actually just managed to collar one of the IFSC technical delegates, and he does confirm what Stasha said. There will be a playoff boulder to see who wins the European Championships. Apparently it's been preset. They've thought about it previously. They accounted for this as a potential situation. In theory, they could have duked it out over the finals boulders, but the rules are the rules. They had to state that before the competition started. So yeah, time is going to tell quite how that's going to work. We're just flying by the seat of our pants here today a little bit in this semi-final round, combining it with the European Championships.
Yeah, 1 or 2 scoring issues. As I say, I do apologise. Somewhat frustrating at our end as well. But we will do our best. There's Mish Pekolraz. Not seen him quite so much at the business end of World Cups this year as we did last year. Here he is, and there's Leah Crane just on your screen there.
Yeah, it's actually super interesting. I've taken a look at the rules with the super final boulder, and we had one in a competition in Australia one time, so we did it to IFSC format, and it's like, yeah, they set a boulder, and each climber goes attempt for attempt. It gets scored like a route, so they number the holds, and whoever gets the highest hold wins. If the climbers get to the same hold on their first attempt, they go again and again and again, and I think there's a maximum of 6 attempts. As long as they can split them in those 6 attempts, there's a split. If they don't split within those 6 attempts, from my understanding, the tie remains. And as far as the European Championship goes, I'm not sure if you can have 2 European champions in the same.
Maybe at that point it'd be time to rewrite the rule book and just push on into the final, so
Yeah.
we're not here until middle of the night.
Perhaps, yep.
Yeah, so unprecedented scenes really here in Munich. These athletes who are out on the wall at the moment are competing on the semi-final boulders to give themselves a European Championship score. So, like we said, there is officials running all over the place at the moment, and we're just trying to keep an eye on everything as it happens. So quite exciting. At the moment, it's Benjamin Blazer on our screen tackling men's number 3. Swiss athlete out, it's Andrea Kumin. She's actually the final athlete to compete in this extra group of 5 women. That's 5 women who didn't make the top 20 in the World Cup qualifiers. As we have a really good look at a true fighter, it's Leah Crane from Team GB. She's actually doing really, really well here. Didn't make the World Cup semi-finals, but proves once again how much of a fine athlete she is and how strong she is and how difficult it is to make a World Cup semi-final. You can see the fight here from Leah. This is fantastic. She's really putting in a good burn.
Absolutely. We're actually seeing, from what I've seen, a lot of the athletes just in this European Championship semi-final coming through and performing quite well, which is probably very frustrating for them.
It's frustrating but motivating at the same time because they know that they've finished on a high from this competition.
Absolutely.
They were disappointed last night at the end of the qualifiers, which was actually midnight by the time they finished. Like we said, 292 athletes here this weekend, but then to come out and have the opportunity to fight on another set of World Cup boulders, it's going to be good leading into the winter break and potentially heading into next season.
Yeah, for sure. And every experience on a World Cup level is crucial and really valuable. So as much as you'd prefer to be in the top 20, vying for a spot in the finals and able to take it if you climb as such, it's still, like we said earlier, you've got to take every victory, and being able to get another chance to climb here in Munich is definitely a victory.
So these athletes are trying to chase down the score from Jan Hoyer. I do believe that is 3 tops in 7 attempts. So the Europeans in the men's chasing down Jan Hoyer, and it's Alex Magos who could take away the consolation prize of 2nd at the European Championships here.
Just behind me, actually, right. Oh, yeah, look at my computer. I've got Janja Gamret and Stasha Gayo. Janja, maybe you can give us some insight.
Well, this is so crazy. I don't know what to say. It's like super weird, but exciting at the same time.
And you look like you're really enjoying being back in bouldering. Just quickly, while you check the results, it looks like you're really enjoying being back on the boulders.
Yeah, it's super cool to switch back to bouldering. So yeah, I'm excited.
Good. Well, good luck on your super boulder and this evening.
Thank you.
Yeah, as I say, my computer's just been stolen very briefly by Janja Gamret and Stasha Gayo.
Yeah, your computer's been stolen, and the world's press has just descended on us just to get the picture, because this is a really unprecedented scene here, and everyone gets the picture of these two before they go on to a super final.
This normally happens, actually, Mike. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Normally we get this kind of attention.
Absolutely.
Don't know what you're talking about. I don't think it's anything to do with these two taking my computer. I wish I put a password on it.
Well, it's even more. I think it's actually even more interesting than just the European Championship, because in the World Cup standings at the moment we have a three-way tie for first place. So say that the World Cup final doesn't split as well, there's a potential for a second super final still going forward. So, you know, I don't know if the action is even over just now. Hopefully the World Cup final splits just fine, but nevertheless we do have that three-way tie at the top with Akio in the mix as well for the World Cups.
My, oh my. For three people that maybe maths isn't their natural thing, this is proving quite the challenge.
I feel like it's more of a boxing match than a semi-final here. There's so much going on. But, well, what's good for the guys at home is the fact that we've managed to stream this extra round of climbing. So it's just extra opportunities to watch more climbing. And as far as I'm concerned, that's a good thing.
Absolutely, and good to see Jesse Pilz, known mainly as a lead climber, also obviously a pretty handy boulderer. I remember Adidas Rockstars finalist last year. Certainly no slouch in the bouldering. It's good to see her attempt these semi-finals boulders. Ditto Jerne Kruder. We saw his sister Julia in the World Cup semi-final earlier on.
This is Hannah Mitbo fighting on women's number 3. Then we just saw Leah Crane have a good burn on this, get a couple more moves further than this. But Hannah Mitbo, another one of the great European athletes over the last few years, showing her form once again. And yeah, once again we can say it's a great opportunity just to look at some other athletes, and Hannah Mitbo could be heading for a top here to put herself in a good position for her scores on this set of boulders for the European Championships. Gets one and gets two, nicely done, Hannah Mitbo.
Yeah, no, some of these guys are absolutely destroying the semi-boulders.
You do wonder if for them it's like the pressure is almost off, they're just out here they've got nothing to lose at this stage.
Probably, like, it can't really go wrong. I mean, you know, they can't go through to the final, but they can still do their best to try and get a good ranking in the European Championship. It's a really, really great opportunity. Like, you've got to also think there are other non-Europeans who are close to the semi-finals who, because they're not European, don't get the same opportunity to climb on the semi-final boulders. So, you know, you've definitely got to be appreciative and thankful for the opportunity that they have.
Yeah, so a couple of European legends who are actually out at the moment. That was Jeremy Bonda from Team France in the background, made the finals in Paris 2016, and on the screen at the moment from GB team, it's Will Bosey, who had a really good semi-finals. He's not done that many senior World Cups and semi-finals qualifiers, I should say. He had a really good qualifying round, and he did really well. This is Martin Stranek, such a powerful athlete, made many a final in his time, and he's an absolute warrior when it comes to these big pinches and those powerful moves.
Yeah, I think this is Will's first Bouldering World Cup as well, so pretty good finishing for him, regardless of how he climbs in this round, for sure.
Very strong outdoor climber as well, Will Bosey. Not getting on with that big dyno though, heads back in with 30 seconds to spare. Johanna Holfeld, Germany, also heading in early. That's Martin Stranek on the yellow volumes. Czech climber.
Looks like he's going to be out of time this time, unfortunately.
He is going to be timed out. I thought just trying to finish the boulder, maybe just for fun. Heads back in.
So at the moment, just to let you know roughly where we are in this extra group of climbers for the European Championship score. Leah Crane is on the last boulder. She was third out of 5. And we'll just have a look roughly where we are in the men's.
Gabriele Moroni out.
Yeah, and I think it's Benjamin Blazer who was second out in the men's out of 8, finishing his tour. So, yeah, a few climbers still to come to make their way through these boulders, which gives enough opportunity for everybody to figure out what's going to happen in this super final. Give the route setters to think about something anyway, that's for sure.
Leah not getting on with women's 4. She made a semi-final in the World Cups already this year. Just missed out this time round. Gabriele Moroni. Had a good chat with him in Vale, still as psyched as ever. He's been climbing an awful long time, indoors, outdoors, boulder, lead, you name it, does it all, and does it well.
Yeah, one of the all-time greats, really, and we hope to see him next week in Arco for the lead competition. The lead World Cups continue out in Italy at a fantastic venue, so if you're in the area, definitely come and check it out. If not, live streaming it as ever.
It's going to be a really interesting field in Arco, considering all the boulders have finished. It's in pretty close proximity to this one, and also with the World Youth Championships coming up, a lot of youth are coming through and using it as a good preparation event for the Youth Championships. So I think it's going to be a really cool field. It'll be interesting to see how it pans out with a few different names in the mix.
So for those guys at home who may have just tuned in, the World Cup semi-final has finished, and yeah, a great round it was. We have an extra round of climbing at the moment just to determine some European Championships results. They get to compete on the same boulders. Currently chasing down Janja Garnbret and Stasha Gehu, who will have a climb off to determine the European champion. And chasing down Jan Hoyer, big German 2015 European champion. So Jan Hoyer could potentially add another European Championships to his trophy cabinet. We are just waiting for our European scores to update, see if anybody's getting anywhere near them, but chances are Stasha and Janja Garnbret, two of the greats of the sport, so high up before tops in 6 attempts. I thought it's unlikely it would be a very, very impressive performance if they were to catch those two.
So, Misha Kolraz, resident of Innsbruck, hails from Südtirol, which is the Tyrol's a bit of a complicated geographical region, but Südtirol lies in Italy. The main Tyrol itself leads in Austria, and Misha now a resident of Austria. I shouldn't say the main part of Tyrol, I'll get slaughtered by the Südtirolians. The northern part of Tyrol.
So just see, we're currently watching Benjamin Blazer and Leah Crane on the left. Trying to see what they can do, give themselves some decent results for their European Championship score. Obviously this weekend combining the two competitions. Benjamin Blazer, another one of those athletes who seems to have been around forever already. He's so consistent over the years, and yeah, didn't make the World Cup semi-final here, but trying to put on a good show. He's definitely got some good shorts on.
Good to see as well the crowd here in Munich sticking around. They're a very discerning crowd on the whole. A keen climbing city, Munich. A lot of excellent indoor walls, a lot of climbers. If you've ever climbed in the Tyrol region of Austria, most people you get chatting to have come down from Munich for the day. It just seems to be one of those cities that attracts climbers. Only an hour away from some of the big hills of the Alps. And they are a very knowledgeable crowd here, and a very big and very vocal crowd as well. And I think they might be about to unleash another cheers. We see Gabriele Moroni, the left hand, the right hand, he just peels off. We've seen that move stop a few climbers. Fortunately, it stops Gabby as well.
Yeah, super close to holding that sloper, but he just couldn't keep the tension on the foot, and then that brought him away from the wall, and the sloper just wasn't good enough for him to be able to take the swing. Not everybody could shake out on it like Jungwon did.
Yeah, Jungwon Chon looked like he was on a different boulder compared to those lot. Benjamin Blazer and Leah Crane then finished their European Championships campaign. Both of them looking slightly despondent with what's just gone down over the previous 4 boulders, but a good fight nonetheless. You see Will Bosey worked his way onto men's number 3. This man likes a slab, he likes a very small hold, so it could be a good shout with this. Jerry Bonder starts on men's number 2, just one of the French team, and they just take the European Championships especially, but they're taking it so seriously this year. They're really gunning towards these European Championships results.
Yeah, it would have been nice to see Jeremy in the semi and perhaps the final. He's such a showman, really dynamic climber. We're used to seeing him flying across our screens, but not his best day yesterday in qualifiers, but he does get a chance at the boulders. And one thing that I really enjoy hearing, and you always hear the climbers say it, when they don't qualify for a round, one of the most frequent comments is, I'd love to try those boulders. It's just like the sheer passion for climbing and the sheer passion for trying these amazing boulders. And it's really nice that a few extra climbers that maybe didn't make the World Cup semi-final still get a go on these awesome boulders.
Absolutely, like that's the most important thing, is coming here and climbing. You know, we want to do well. We want to get a positive ranking, but more than anything, I think we just want to come out and climb and try some world-class boulders and have a good time.
Jone Kruder, we didn't see many tops of this boulder in the World Cup, and he gets it done.
I think that's one of the really interesting scenarios about having another group of climbers on the same boulders is what could they have done? What would their score be compared to the World Cup semi-finalists? Obviously, it's particularly unfair to directly compare them because the mindset and the situation is different, but it proves that how strong and how deep the field is and how well someone like Jone could have done if he did scrape through yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like just with the particular set of boulders that we had yesterday, it's not totally surprising that we've got some of these guys coming out and climbing really well because, bouldering it's just so style dependent. And if the boulders suit you on a day, you could win, and on other instances you come 80th, It's not uncommon that we see people do the set like that in the one season. So,
well, I think the difference in places is so minute. It's literally a foot swap, or you had the finish hold in your hand, you went to match and you slipped off. It could be. It's so finite, the difference between a semi-finals place and, like you say, way down the list.
Yeah. Even attempts to a couple of bonuses can be the difference between 20 places, 30 places easily, especially in big fields like this.
So Jeremy, it's got 2 minutes 20 left on the clock. Crowd would love a top here. As I say, they've hung around. We are undercover here in Munich. It looks to me as if the weather is turning, but we are undercover and the crowd seem happy to hang around and watch a few more world-class climbers, and as well they might be. Superb action. He's just struggling with that jump. He's one of the shorter climbers, Jeremy. That jumps a long way no matter what your height, but especially for a smaller climber like Jeremy.
Yeah, I do wonder if some of the crowd have got the fear a little bit after last night's storm and the wind just picking up across the arena here a little bit. You can see some of them looking around thinking, should we run for the hills or not?
Had to be seen to be believed last night. One of the hottest days of the summer, I think, so far, turned into freezing cold. Can't begin to imagine what speed winds. Yeah. Rain but the size of golf balls. We were in Munich city centre and a BMW actually sank in a puddle.
Wow.
The water was coming in through the doors. We walked over to try and help, and the water was up to my thighs, which admittedly isn't very deep, but most people's ankles. But
that's crazy though. Like we were standing in one of the train stations, and water was flowing down the stairs like a waterfall. Unfortunately, there was a grate at the bottom, like a drain, but like the underground totally could have flooded if that wasn't in place. It was pretty crazy.
Really hope the weather doesn't play any part in stopping this competition. It did stop it briefly last night because it seems to be, if the rain comes, the strong horizontal, horizontal wind, the wind in general, seems to be blowing very, very quickly across the arena. So hopefully that's not going to start whipping in. It's fine as we speak.
Yeah, very worrying though, as you say. We are undercover here in Munich. There is a roof over our heads, but the sides are basically completely open, so if there's any wind at all, it causes some problems.
Yeah, I really feel for the technical delegates and the organisers here. They've had just problem after problem here this weekend. Nothing kind of they could control either, and the weather is something they definitely can't control. We really hope that it's not going to cause us any delays at all. So Gabriele Moroni come out next. He'll be working his way down the wall, right to left as we look at it. It's the Swiss athlete. It's the final athlete out on the women's bouldering. Andrea Kumin finishes her campaign on these set of boulders we currently have. It's going to determine the European Championship scores. Italian Michael just next to him, finishing his campaign on the right. He's just around halfway down the list, so 5 or so athletes still to go, working their way down the wall.
And the wind really picking up here in Munich. The waterproof jackets are going on all around the arena. People beginning to disperse slightly. As I say, it was actually quite intimidating when the storm arrived last night, really hoping we don't get a repeat of the same. But plenty of the hardcore just putting their waterproof jackets on and settling in.
Yeah, rain's definitely starting to come down over the roof, and every now and again with the wind you can feel a couple of the drops blowing to the side. But it's not too bad. It's definitely not enough to stop the competition at this stage. And hopefully we manage to get through all of the climbing before anything like that comes along. It's cold, I might mention. I'm definitely getting cold with the wind coming through.
Just take this opportunity, Graham Alderson, one of the IFSC technical delegates, has been in touch, and he says that there was a tied first place in a Bouldering World Cup back in 2009 between Anna Storr and Akio Noguchi, and they had a super final boulder to determine first place. So it's not unheard of, but it's very rarely heard of. It's definitely the first time I have seen that, 2009. Not sure what I was doing back in 2009, but it seems like a lifetime ago to now.
2009, I was definitely not watching climbing World Cups yet.
Were you even born in 2009?
No, I think I was born a little bit after that, yes. Almost.
Thanks for that, Graham. Graham should have been our technical delegate. We've seen him on the live stream before. Should have been here, but he's had surgery on his left arm. Get well soon, Graham. Thanks for the text.
So I can actually feel moisture in the air. It's starting to descend on our technology and our paperwork here.
Okay, so just as we keep an eye on Gabriele Moroni, got some information for you about the super final. After the European Championship competitors are done, the setters will convert one of the men's boulders, and this new boulder will be the super boulder for Stasha and Janja. There will only be one boulder, and they will go attempt by attempt, and the high point wins. So the first climber gets one attempt, then the second climber gets one attempt, and the high point wins. If tied, they continue until a separation is reached.
I'll just come in here, Charlie. From a route setting point of view, that is literally the worst case scenario. There is nothing worse than trying to set a boulder on the fly for a World Cup, or to determine the World Championships on the fly from a boulder they've got to modify. Every ounce of their route setting knowledge and experience will have to come right now. That could very, very easily go wrong. I mean, I have a lot of faith in these guys, but like I said, worst case scenario for the route setters.
Well, inevitably on any boulder, I mean, more so on boulders and lead routes, there's always going to be inevitably one move that's harder than the others. It's just inevitable. It's very hard to make a boulder where each move gets progressively harder, especially when they're adapting one of the men's boulders. They're not setting from scratch. They haven't got 2 hours to sit and think about this. They're going to now be down the front of the stage deciding which boulder to use and trying to figure out how to change it and what they might do to try and get a result off one boulder. Very, very difficult challenge, even if you've got plenty of time, which the route setting team don't.
Yeah, it's the stuff that nightmares are made of from the route setting point of view, but we have heard that they kind of have previously thought about this, so I do hope it's not something that they're just going to have to kind of, like we say, do on the fly right now. But the wind seems to have dropped a little bit. The rain continues. The rain is cascading down the roof here, but it's so far so good in the arena. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to see what happens with this super final now.
Yeah, it's not quite uncharted territory, but not a million miles from it. And I think certainly be new for Stasha and Janja.
Yeah, for sure.
Really interesting to see how they cope with it, and how I'll be interested to see as well if they work together a little bit to try and figure it out. I mean, we do see joint observation in finals, and it'd be interesting to see, or whether they just come out with the game face on and get straight into it and just focus on their own performance.
They're quite close friends, and they train together a lot. I would imagine that they'll work their boulder out together and let each other, give each other the best opportunity. That's my prediction.
You'd like to think so, but it's not out of the question that they'll think, oh, well, there's the European Championships at stake here. I'm going to come out, I'm not going to talk to her, I'm not going to swap any of my beta from looking at the boulder. We shall see.
But don't forget, they are through to the World Cup final as well. So, I mean, the European Championships up for grab. There is money involved. There is a big trophy involved. But there's also the fact that, do I kill myself to try and win the European Championships and potentially ruin my chances in the final to win the Bouldering World Cup? What's more important? I don't know.
Apologies early on. We were having no end of problems with scores updating, and then we'd get someone that would tell us something that may or may not prove to be correct. It seems like we've just about got the most up-to-date information now. And as you say, looking forward to seeing how this super final goes down. In the meantime, we'll keep an eye on your screen, but we can confirm the two World Cup semi-finals. So we're talking World Cups now. Janja Garnbret and Stasha Geho, they'll be through. They'll be joined this evening by Akio Noguchi, Petra Klingler, Shauna Coxey and Alex Puccio. My, oh my. There is no climber there who cannot win this evening. Extraordinarily strong. And looking at that list of female finalists, there's no one that's pleased just to be there.
No,
they all
want the
podium
title.
or a win.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, often in a final you get someone and they say, "Yeah, I'm just so happy," blah blah blah. And we spoke to Stasha earlier; she's delighted to be there. But of that list of names, Janja Gamrot, Sasha Geho, Hakina Gucci, Petra Klingler, Shauna Coxey, and Alex Puccio, they are all gunning for at least a medal,
Absolutely.
if not a gold one.
Yeah, they're definitely experienced athletes, and they're looking to take it out for sure.
So just turning our attention back then to the athletes who are still fighting for places in the European Championships. This is Jeremy Bondner. We just had a good look at Will Bosey, who was on men's number 4, and you can see that's a great angle of how bad the undercut hold here Jeremy's actually got to contend with. It's one of the best angles we've seen of that throughout this morning's stream. And Jeremy's actually finding crimps at the back of the screw holes. That's definitely fingernail territory down the back of that. It's pretty grim from his point of view, but he'll do absolutely anything it takes to get a good result here. And Jeremy Bondner still chasing down Jan Hoyer for a European Championship title. 3 tops in 7 attempts is what it's going to take to beat or to equal him, and this is good work from Jeremy.
Super impressive beta there, straight up with both hands, was able to hold it straight away. It was really, really cool.
No. Just looked like he really stood up into that guy, kind of a bit high, and he lost the traction on the fingers because he went so high on it. Got to stay low and work your way around the volume. A lot of weight through the feet rather than the hands.
Yeah, absolutely.
Johanna Holfeld then, German athlete, on her final boulder. We've had Andrea Kumin, she's finished her tour. The list we have here is actually slightly scrambled in terms of the order, so we're just trying to get our heads around that one as well at the same time.
Just updates are still coming through, by the way, about the procedure for the super boulder that will take place between Janja and Stasha. Unfortunately, because of the amount of time it's going to take the route setters to set the boulder, we're not going to be able to stream the super boulder. I do apologise, I've just been told that myself. We will try to film it though and bring it to you on social media. So I do apologise, but the route setters are going to have a bit of work to do. I said they haven't got much time, they do need a bit.
Yeah, I think that, although that's hard for the guys at home, I do feel sorry for you guys. That is the sensible decision at the end of the day, because like we said, this is the worst case scenario for the route setters. They've got to decide the European Championships on one boulder, so to take some time is the sensible approach, and like we say, we'll bring that to you as soon as we've got that footage on social media. So it's Will Bosey then on the right of the screen wearing 97 from Team GB. A good weekend's work for him. And Johanna Holfeld from Germany also trying hard here, but as we saw earlier in the competition, women's 4 and men's 4 particularly difficult boulders. So for you guys at home, this is an extra group. If you've just tuned in, you unfortunately would have missed the World Cup semi-final. These climbers are competing for a score on the same boulders. Just to make life easy, they use the same boulders, and their score will decide their placement in the European Championships. Obviously this weekend the World Cup has been doubled up as the European Championships. It does throw up lots of issues. You can have a read through all of that chat on the internet and through social media. Definitely check out Jorg Verhoeven's interview on UKC and his Facebook channels and the official statements from the IFSC as to kind of how we ended up in this situation, I suppose. But they've come up with a really good solution in the end, and by the end of this round we're getting relatively close to that now. That's Gabriele Moroni working his way. He's kind of 2/3 way down the field of 8 remaining athletes of the Europeans. So, yeah, he's getting close to the end of his tour, and we'll very shortly be able to find out in the men's, at least, unless we have another tie, but I'm pretty sure that can't happen. We'll be a European champion in the men's.
And as we continue to watch this European Championships, special guest Misha Pekoraz, he did make the World Cup semi-final, but it's a nice bonus to be able to climb on these boulders, hey?
Yeah, I mean, I was disappointed after I didn't make it to World Cup semi-finals, but luckily I could at least climb today in European Championships semi-finals. So yeah, it was fun. The boulders were pretty good and had good fun.
And just tell us about your season. Overall, you've not been happy, hey?
Not really. I mean, I started off really well in Sheffield with the quiff, but then the World Cup season was quite bad all the year, and yeah, I'm quite disappointed with how it all went. But yeah, next year it's gonna be better, hopefully.
And what's the plan now before next year to get ready? Where are you in terms of you were studying at university, where are you in terms of life, and how much can you dedicate yourself to the season next year?
Well, I'm living in Innsbruck, and you might all know Innsbruck is the best place to live, probably, to train, and I'm studying there as well, but I have plenty of time to train and prepare for climbing. And yeah, I mean, training is maybe going to switch now a little in terms of preparation for Olympics, so maybe more lead and speed training, but yeah, of course bouldering is still the number one.
And is that something you have your eye on, the Olympics? You are really beginning to think about it now and adjust your training?
Yeah, I will definitely adjust my training to it, and we have some national small comps for the Olympic format and try to do well there, so maybe get some sponsorships or something, and we'll see. I'm psyched for the Olympics, yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, hey, enjoy training over the winter, and we'll see you next year, and I'm sure you'll be back on your 2016 form.
Thank you, yeah. See you next year again.
So just as we're in that interview, we have Gabriele Moroni on the wall, and it's quite interesting as we look at the men's European Championship scores. It's actually the top 7 are all actually competed in the World Cup, so it's kind of going by the form book at the moment. It's, like I said earlier, it's Jan Hoyer leading the way, 3 tops in 7. Alexander Magos currently sitting second. He'll be take away a silver medal in the European Championship. Andrzej Perhak from Slovenia did a fantastic job earlier, 2 tops in 6. Has actually not made it through to the World Cup final, but consolation prize of a bronze medal potentially. There's a couple of athletes still to come in the European Championships. Jone Kruder did well as well. He's in 4th. Jakob Schubert. It was actually, sorry, I'm going to go back on that because Jone Kruder was not in the semi-final.
So no, he was just European Championship.
Yeah, he's blasted through in the extra round, done well. But then it's Jakob Schubert 5th. Alexei Rupsov actually down in 6th. 2 tops in 10th. I have to double check the scores on Alexei there. 2 tops in 6. It's currently reading on the European Championships from him. So the action continues, and unfortunately, like we said, we won't be able to bring you the super final boulder, but we will bring it to you, but it won't be instantly on the back of this because the route setters need time to create that boulder and make sure they get it right indeed. At the moment, it's Sergei from Russia.
Gavin Moroni stepping up for another attempt. This will be his final one, I'd assume, with 50 seconds left on the clock. Looking for a top, though, hopefully to improve his ranking. He was getting close on the last go, so maybe he can pull it together for this one. Super strong climber, not unknown to the semi-finals. Just got to figure out the bait of this, but I think he's just a little bit out of juice, unfortunately. So yeah, just struggling to get that foot up a little bit. The final few moves of desperation before admitting defeat and stepping back out to isolation again.
Just as you can see there, just as Gabriele Moroni walks off, he's having fun there. He appreciates it nonetheless, and to be able to compete in front of this crowd is
exactly. It's not every day you get to place outside of the top 20 and still climb in the semi-finals and get that other opportunity. So there's nothing more you can do other than just have fun and go with the flow, I guess. Jeremy Bondet steps back out for the final men's boulder.
Yeah, Jeremy Bondet had a really good burn on his third block, just tipped off the top. So he'll be looking to pull something out of the bag for this last boulder. He's currently a ways down the list, unfortunately, in terms of his European Championship ranking. 1 top in 3 attempts, which puts him currently in 13th. If he could find a top here, he could actually rocket up to the top 6. So, Jeremy, if he finds a decent top here, could take himself way up the European Championships leaderboard.
Yeah, for sure. He's definitely got some really impressive contact strength, which will serve him well on the slopers. So, it could be within his ability to take a top on the final boulder here.
Yeah, not not the start he was looking for there, just trying to find the body position.
His left hand was too low on the left start hold, so he couldn't move his foot up properly. So now you'll see he's taking his left hand a little bit higher, and he should be able to get into the right position to lift his hip high enough to establish. There we go, way easier that time.
Yeah, it was a matter of sort of 20 or 30 centimetres higher up on the hold. Actually gave him the extra height to find that next shoulder volume. Down the back of the holds again for Jeremy Bonder. Is he crimping the back of that as well?
I think so. I'm not sure that it would be all that much better than the actual hold itself, to be honest, but I mean, I'm not on the wall.
You can see him find a crimp on the panel joint as well. Jeremy Bonder looking for all of the options here. And not finding the right sequence. Maybe getting distracted by alternative methods or alternative holds.
Yeah, and considering he'd only just stepped out onto the boulder, I think that's really interesting. Usually you don't start trying for that stuff until like at least a couple attempts in. Because, you know, the route setters, they're very experienced, and generally, for the most part, the way they set the boulder is going to be more or less the way it's done. So yeah, interesting decision to start looking for alternative methods so quickly.
Yeah, so for the guys who have joined us all the way through this stream, thank you so much for joining us, and we can confirm that Jeonwon Chon has now won the overall title in the men's. We've got the laptops are on fire here at the moment, and notes are flying all over the place, but because Alexei has not done so well in the semi-final round, Jeonwon Chon does take away the overall, so we already have our overall winners for 2017, Jeonwon Chon and Shauna Coxey. Obviously Shauna already won before she even stepped foot in Germany, but so the overall winners for the Boulder World Cups, that's a combined score minus their worst score. It's Jeonwon Chon and Shauna Coxey 2017. Shauna back-to-back 2016, 2017 winner. Jeonwon Chon 2015 and 2017 overall Boulder World Cup winners.
He's climbing really carefully at the moment, which is strange. Maybe he's aware that he needs a bit more in order to, you know, excel in the rankings, but it's interesting. He's definitely climbing a little bit hesitantly.
Yeah, realistically, if he does this, I think the best he can do is 7th in the European Championships. It's down to attempt whether he can beat Alexei Rubtsov into 6th place for the European Championships. But yeah, there's no podiums on offer at the moment for Jeremy Bonder. You know, he probably won't know that at this stage with so much going on. But yeah, like you say, he's climbing super cautiously and looks like he's kind of forgotten about the panel joints and the crimps and just focusing on what he's got on offer.
Yeah, making a little bit of progress now though, so hopefully he can keep this going. Yeah, good beta there.
This is where we saw Yone Kruder do really well as part of his European tour, as you were, which put him into a really good position for his European Championships overall result here this weekend. Jeremy Bonder once again just gives it absolutely everything. Totally gassed as he sort of half passes out on the mats.
Yeah, nothing left in the tank there for Jeremy. Is he lining up for another go? This is pure mental strength getting him through if it is. He is going for another go. And another. This is just Jeremy Bonder trying to climb this boulder because he wants to. He wants to give the crowd a show. He wants to claim a top.
Yeah, there are no excuses to quit on that last boulder because you don't have anything after that. So, you know, if you've got 5 seconds left and you haven't got the bonus yet, you might as well pull on and try to get it.
Might as well give it everything you've got.
Absolutely. And he's still climbing really well, but I think he's just out of gas.
We just hopefully see him on the mat there.
There he is. That is a man that's given everything. Shakes his head, waves to the crowd, heads back in.
So we do believe this is going to be the final climber out. The Russian athlete Sergei rounds off this extra group of European qualifiers then. Obviously, as we've said before, but if you have just joined us, this is an extra group of Europeans to make up the quota of 20 that would go through normally to a European Championship semi-final. And this competition, the European Championships element of it anyway, will be decided. Well, it's probably already has been decided, to be honest. It's going to be Jan Hoyer's taking away the European Championships. We will double check our scores against what Sergei has on offer. It's looking like Jan Hoyer 3 tops in 7 attempts, works his way. Not only is he super psyched to get through to the finals, he's got to be happy with the fact he's taken away a medal already after a nice morning's work.
Excellent morning's work for Jan Hoyer, yes. And made a final in both lead and boulder in the same year. Pretty good effort. Nearly got a podium in Vila.
Absolutely.
Ended up fourth. It was awesome to watch, especially because he basically climbed with no expectation.
Yeah, and it meant a lot to him, actually. Like, I think people assume that because he's primarily a boulder, it's not such a big deal. But actually, he used to do a lot of lead competitions in the past, and it really did mean quite a lot that he was able to finally achieve that goal that he'd worked for so long, and he didn't think would ever happen. So yeah, it was really exciting to see him in that final for sure.
Just off to our right, off camera then, Andrzej from Slovenia looks absolutely over the moon, spinning around. He's also talking to a family member or somebody of importance because he's got a bronze medal in the European Championship. So what a fine result from him. European Championship as a youth in 2015, to take away a medal in the European Championships as a senior is brilliant. And great result from him. Got to be happy with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's Sergei Luzetsky then from Russia. I do believe this is going to be the final athlete out, tackling the fourth boulder. We've seen some great tops of this all throughout the morning. Saw some bit of an epic top earlier on from Alex Magos, and then someone like Jone Kruder coming through in this extra group, finding a top. And yeah, it's been a really good set of boulders all throughout the day. Really.
Yeah, definitely, really good split in the men, I think, and exciting to watch. Really enjoyable.
And I think really, with two women tied going through to the final, obviously that's caused a little bit of problem with the European Championships, but it's just hard luck for the route setters to get a tie in four tops. I think it was 6 attempts, but overall, I'd definitely say they've done a fantastic job here so far this weekend, considering the circumstances.
Absolutely, we're just watching Sergei Luzetsky trying to keep his hips, trying to keep his belly close to the wall. Not quite close enough. 2 minutes left for him. And Mike, you were just talking then about the route setters. They always aim for what we call separation. So you get a result. The last thing the route setters want is a tie. And just interestingly, in the women's competition, they got it perfectly. If you get 3 tops or more, you make the final. And if you get less than 3 tops, you don't make the final. And in the men's competition, it was 3 tops for the top 7 climbers, so not far off perfect in both competitions. Came down to attempts in the men's. In the women's, they got it absolutely nailed on.
So just 1 minute, 15 seconds or so to go then.
Mike Langley, chief route setter at the Castle, of course, head of the Route Setters Union. Always keen to point out just how hard they work and how hard their job is, and how devilishly handsome they are, and all the rest of it.
Yeah, I think it's
underpaid, and you can imagine.
It's a real dark art, and not many people really know kind of what happens during the night or early on in the morning in the route setting world, and it's
that does sound a little suspicious, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, it's a really interesting game, and it's so vital to these competitions.
Yeah, they definitely work hard, and you don't have competitions without route setters.
So just 30 seconds left then for the final athlete out on the stage. The Russian athlete fighting hard, but he looks absolutely gassed. But as Jeremy Bonda did, he's just going to give it one more burn. There's 20 seconds left to go of his 5 minutes, and after this, we will be looking forward to the final.
Yeah, final will be here at 6 p.m. As I say, we're splitting the men's and the women's final, so it'll be one then the other. You won't miss a single attempt on a single boulder.
So it looks like time's out for the Russian.
That is time up. And so concludes our action so far here in Munich. Remember, we have got the super boulder. I've been told that that won't be streamed, but I'm also hearing that it has been set. I do apologise. We are awaiting information. For now, let's have a look at the scores from today's semi-final in the women's competition. We've got Janja Garnbret, Sasha Geho tied. Akio Noguchi also tied. Those top three will progress. They'll be joined in the final here in Munich this evening by Petra Klingler, the world champion, Shauna Coxey, two-time overall World Cup winner, and Alex Puccio, a legend of the sport who we haven't seen as much as we'd like for various reasons, mainly injury over the past couple of years, but she will climb this evening and she's bound to get quite the reception. Just missing out, meanwhile, Fanny Gibert a bit lower down, Mihona Naka, she might have hoped to be there. Katja Kadic will miss out as well. This will be the first one she's missed in 3 World Cups. Franziska Serra, Evgenia Kazbekova, Hannah Slaley, Camille Faye, Michaela Tracy had a superb qualifier, couldn't quite back it up in the semi-finals, unfortunately. Sierra Blair Coyle, Julia Kruder, Sol Sat and Chloe Collier, a strong final 5 in that semi-final in the women. All 5 might have expected to be slightly higher up, but they miss out. Jongwon Chon, he goes through in first place. Clean sweep, 4 tops, took him 6 attempts. Kokoro Fuji, he also claimed 4 tops, took him 14 attempts. In third place, Taisei Ishimatsu, Tomoe Narasaki, last year's dominant force. Jan Hoyer, his first boulder final of 2017. And Yoshiyuki Ogata, what a final that promises to be as well. Just missing out, Alexander Megos. A lot of people would have liked to see him in the final. Jakob Schubert, ditto, and Alexei Rubtsov doesn't make the final, which hands Jongwon the title. So Manuel Cornu also misses out. David Fernenberg would have had high hopes in front of his home crowd. And a bit lower down, Mikhail Marwem, one of the stars of the Tokyo World Cup, misses out. Ditto, Yuji Fujiwaki. And the crowd all looking over to the right at the venue MC. And as I say, we will bring you coverage of the Super Boulder when we have it. We're not entirely sure when the start time is, but we'll make sure we get it on social media. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you to Mike Langley. Thank you to Campbell Harrison. And we will see you at 6 p.m. for what promise to be 2 wonderful finals. We'll see you then.